Orcs Queen by Celeste King.
Orc warriors of Prothika. Samara, can I ask what you're wearing?
Oh, this. It's one of the outfits from a story we did together on worldsofprothika.com. I was just curious to see if it still gets the same reaction.
Reaction, huh? I think I can safely say it's definitely catching my attention.
Is that so? Now that I know about worldsofprothika.com keeping a library of all our story narrations, including the juiciest bits, I think it might be time to put some of them to the test. And with the code YouTube30, you can get an extra 30% off.
30% off, you say? Sounds like the perfect excuse to relive some of those memorable moments.
I thought you'd never ask. Why don't you come over here and see what other surprises are waiting for you?
Oh, I plan to. Just try to keep that outfit on for a little while longer, will you?
No promises, big boy.
You're currently listening to Celeste King's Orcs Queen.
Chapter 1. Geneva. The girl in my arms has started to shake as her deep sobs rack her body. She is rail thin, and the bones in her shoulders are so sharp they could cut ice. I don't offer her any words of solace. There would be no point. We would both know they would be lies, and I can't bring myself to do that to her. All I can do is comfort her with my arms, let her know that despite the horrors that await her, she is not alone. There were many that have come before her, and many that will come after, including me. It's a cycle of misery that will never end. I'm unsure if it is a good or a bad thing, to feel the deep fear of what's coming and know that you're not the only one. Because as much as I am terrified for her and for myself, I would not wish this feeling on anyone else. The sound of clinking metal and heavy footsteps stalls her crying. She looks up at me, her tears having created dirty streaks down her face. The look in her eyes is enough to break my heart. She can be no older than 13 or 14, but her tiny frame makes her seem even younger. This is why she is here, alongside me in this cage. Bunker Number 3 is known for its depraved ways, a human trading post where people, especially women, are traded for resources. Bunker Number 78, where I was taken from, has always lacked resources, except for women. One of the most valuable in this disgusting and unfair world. Not that we are valued at all, ironically enough. It is about what we can be used for, the prices that we can fetch, and the services we can provide. My only consolation as I crouch on the dirty floor with my back pressed to the metal is that I am the one who is here. But it wasn't supposed to be this way. The leader of this bunker is more fond of girls than women. At 22, I am far from what he desires, but there was no way I was going to let him take my 12-year-old sister. By the time they had brought me here and discovered I am not her, it was too late. I will still fetch a good price for something, but it will not be my sister that monster gets to defile. She is safe for now, and that is all I wish for. But deep down I know the day will surely come when it is her behind these bars. That is a thought more terrifying than anything that can happen to me, knowing that she could be the plaything of the creature that arranges these deals, or even worse, traded to orcs. My grip on the girl tightens as the door of the cage opens and a tall, balding man enters. Just to breathe the same air as him makes me sick to my stomach. These people are worse than orcs, using women for their own disgusting purposes without a thought of the suffering and trauma that they cause. The girl screams and clings to me, her nails digging into my flesh as the man enters and grabs at her. We both desperately try to hold on to each other, but it's no good. We can hold on all we like, kick and scream all that we can, but we do not hold the power here. Please, I cry, leave her and take me instead. She's weak and will be no good to anyone. Take me. The panic in me is all-consuming, taking over every cell in my body. I don't even know this girl, but it's as if I am giving up my own sister to this man. My cries are met with a slap to the face that is so hard I almost lose consciousness. My ears ring and dark shadows crawl across my eyes. Still, I persist, clinging onto her leg as she is dragged from me. When his foot lands in my stomach, I'm floored, clutching at my guts and crying out in pain. Her screams are deafening as she sees what he's done to me, knowing no doubt that she can expect just as brutal a treatment. But she's a child, and even though she will have seen and experienced many dark things in this life, she has no idea of the things that can happen to her now. "Damn women!" he curses, dragging the child away. "When will these bitches learn?" The clinking of metal returns as the cage door is closed and locked, and I let out a scream of rage and sorrow for every woman and girl that has to endure this hell. Her screams are now muffled by his hands as he shouts and curses at her for putting up such a fight. What does he expect? That we should go willingly to the torture that awaits us? Is their arrogance so huge and lack of empathy so lacking? I can only surmise that it is. Must this existence be so dark? Surely we can do better than the life we have created for ourselves. It was not down to us that the orcs arrived through the rift, overtaking our planet and resources, driving us underground. But what has happened since then is nothing but our own doing. That of the men that chose to use females to reassert their dominance. Now, if they're not dominating and manipulating us, then they are trying to use and outwit other settlements. What is wrong with this world? As humans, we should be uniting to fight the orcs that have invaded this planet, and yet all we do is cause more suffering and misery. There have been many nights when I've wondered if it is like this the world over. There have been whispers that not all settlements behave as the ones that I know do. But they are only whispers. Anything else would enrage the leaders. They don't want people, especially women, to know that there is another way and that others out there are changing. But I keep those whispers alive, somewhere where they can't be seen or heard by others, deep inside where no one can touch them or take them from me. They've taken enough from me, my freedom, my choices, the ability to live my life as I see fit. They've taken so much from many of us for years, thinking that we are worthless and that we do not matter. We do matter. Our grandmothers, our mothers, our sisters, our cousins, our friends. All of us that live now and came before. The orcs may have taken away everything that we knew, thrown us back into a time that we thought was long gone, technologically and socially. But that should not have meant we went backwards instead of forwards. The orcs came and we retreated, stepped backwards in every sense possible. Bakazu, the human heart is filthy, maybe more so than that of the orc. At least they know what they are. Humans pretend to be civilized, imagining themselves to be wise and intelligent, and yet act worse than animals. They have drained the energy from my body and the hope from my heart, and replaced it with something dark and empty. A deep void that I am being drawn into, breaking apart as it takes me, piece by broken piece. Curling up into a ball, the helplessness overtakes me. Tears erupt and burn my cheeks. Why must it be like this? Why must I be like this? I should have done something, but I am here, caged like an animal, unable to help myself or others, waiting for it to be me. I've spent my entire life
The forest is not your safe space, little one.
training to be the perfect bride.
You can run, but
There is no avoiding my fate.
I've heard before that sometimes Wera can find one whose blood calls to them.
Bloodsong, it's called.
You understand why you're being punished, right, child?
It's you. You're the one.
You need to know your place.
I am a bringer of death. I knew nothing but darkness before you, but now I know what it is to bathe in the sun.
Why are you doing this? Where are you taking me?
Where no one will ever find you. Where you will be mine. Forever. Chapter 2. Harok. The council is at full attendance today, even though there are many matters outside of these four walls to deal with. But there is not a single member that wishes to miss the guest that we have. It is all anyone has talked about for weeks. Akita the Wise, I am thankful to finally be sitting opposite you. I look around at the council whose faces indicate their less favorable feelings about this meeting. And you, Harok. The Golden Arrow clan is looking forward to forging a relationship with the Thunderstrike clan that may benefit us all. He speaks in a way that is both strong and gentle, a strange and intriguing combination for an orc. I quite agree, I say, addressing the council members more than him when I say, it is imperative that we start to work together. Now that the magic is dying, there is an even more pressing need for collaboration. Of course, our energies are best spent working on these matters than on battle or competition. There are hard times ahead, but if we come together, then we stand a chance of surviving this loss, as difficult as it will be. He is pragmatic in the way that he sees things, and I like that. I mean every word when I speak of collaboration. I've been chieftain of the Thunderstrike clan for many years, fought many battles, and done many things to ensure the safety and prosperity of my clan. But the orcs have been here on Earth for many years, Prothika nothing but a distant memory, and the magic is dying. Without it, we will suffer greatly. It is already happening, magic being rationed in the same way as grain. We need to learn new ways. Human ways if we are to survive, and no one knows that better than Akita the Wise. He has only been a chieftain for a year yet has made many improvements in his short time at the helm of the Golden Arrows. He has successfully integrated humans into the clan, starting with his own mate, and they are working together, learning from one another. Humans have been an essential part of our success. My mate, a medic from a human stronghold, has started a program to teach us the ways of science, he tells us. What does this even mean? One of the council members interjects. There is a hostility in his voice that makes my fists clench. This is supposed to be a meeting to bring us closer together, not trade insults with our guest. But Akita pays no mind to his aggression. Or rather he does, but seems to understand the reasons for it. I'm sorry, let me be clearer in my speech. I'm so familiar with many of the human terms these days and forget that others are not, he says, apologetically. The council elder grunts and a smile tugs at my lips. This chieftain is every bit the leader that I imagined him to be, and there is no doubt as to how garnered his name. He is indeed thoughtful and wise, able to rise above the aggressive tendencies that are the lifeblood of us orcs. There are many ways in which the humans have helped us. Doctors and medics are healers of sorts. They are able to treat disease and infection, but not, of course, with magic. They have achieved this through the many advances that were made in science, knowledge and understanding of the natural world, how things work, how they are constructed, including our very bodies. Though many of the council look less than impressed, there are some whose interests have been piqued by Akita. In my heart, I hope he is able to convince as many of these old fools as he can, because we need it. Humans can't be trusted, one of them cries. With respect, but I would beg to differ, says Akita calmly, though I know it is not easy, and there are many obstacles to overcome when building these relationships. There are bound to be reservations. These are more than reservations, Chief Akita. We have seen firsthand how these humans treat each other. What would they be willing to do to us? I understand your feelings. But if there is one thing I have learned, it is that there is good and bad in every species. It is not about trusting all humans, but the ones who are worthy of that trust, says Akita. The meeting continues in this way for some time, with Akita offering up as much information and confidence as he can when it comes to orc-human relations. I sit back and watch, taking in as much as I can of what this impressive chieftain has to offer. When we are done, I take him for a walk around the stronghold and its borders. I am sorry for the hostility of some of my council. I fear it may be some time before they come around to my way of thinking, I say. He is calm and measured as we talk, as he was back there. And there is something about him that makes me feel this is a chieftain that I can not only trust, but respect and learn from. It is only to be expected, he says. These are new and testing times, and we orcs have been used to doing things a certain way for a long time now. Yes, and those ways are no longer serving us anymore. Agreed. But change does not come easy. The older members of our clans in particular find this hard. They have only bad experiences of other races having faced persecution from the elves. Now we are asking them to work with humans. It will take time. He's right in what he is saying, as frustrating as it is. We are the Thunderstrike clan. We move quickly and with force. Sitting around for months or even years going around in ridiculous circles is not something that I can tolerate. It has been an honor to have received you today, and I can only thank you for traveling to sit with us, I say. The honor is mine. Have faith, my friend. We will get there eventually. And may I congratulate you. I hear there is child on the way now. There is, and it is the best thing that has ever happened to me. I am glad for you. A happy leader must make for a happy clan. I would like to think so. Since I took over from my father, there have been many changes. He was a good chieftain, but a brutal man, ruling by fear alone. I hope to lead by example and respect. A safe journey home to your clan and to your family, and my best wishes for the safe delivery of the Orkling. Thank you, Harok. I'm glad to have met with you today. We will see each other again, no doubt. We shall indeed, I say, before we nod at each other, and he takes off on his Hokin. I watch him as he disappears into the distance, feeling a renewed sense of hope. Then I make my way to my work chamber and call for Zora, my second in command. So, what did you think of our guest today? I ask. He pulls up a chair, and I get the sense he is not as optimistic as I am. In all honesty, I am impressed with him. He has created much change and quickly, but there are still some in the council that are not as convinced. I know, but they will come around. They will have to. Soon there will be no choice. Would they lead us into possible extinction because they are not willing to evolve? I understand your feelings, I really do. But at this point, I fear it is dangerous for us to associate with Akita or show any signs of cooperating with humans, since the council will probably do anything to stop you. I say nothing because a part of me knows he is right. Currently, the clan is divided into two factions, those for and against humans. The painting of the previous chief, my father, looks down upon us both as we wrestle with these issues. This conservative mindset will lead to the extinction of our kind. Zora, you're the only one I can trust. I need you to do something.
Chapter 3. Geneva. A gnarled old bastard dumps more slop into the trough, a sour smell rising from the unwashed basin. Soup's on, eat up, or it'll be your breakfast too. I do my best not to gag as he chortles and walks away, shutting the heavy wooden doors behind him. This is what we've been reduced to, eating slop and surviving off of the leader's refuse. I can't even be certain they haven't defecated in the stuff. It smells so foul. My body refuses to even investigate. It knows it's not food any longer, but a grimy sludge that would better serve as fertilizer. It's all I've been given me to eat since they took my sister. I can't believe this is how humans treat each other. If we are like this with one another, then it's no wonder the orcs won. Renewed hunger rips through my gut. It's been days, I think, since I was dumped in here, but I can't be certain. They won't use me. I'm too old, they said, though I've hardly seen my 23rd summer. They want them young, and the thought burns me from the inside out. I have tried to break open this cage, but there's no way to escape. They've obviously done this before, many times. My tears have long since dried, but the hollow grief remains. There are others in here with me, each of us separated by heavy bars. It is lucky because some of the men might have tried something by now. They grab me if I get too close, so I remain in the far corner of my cage, where only their lascivious stares can reach me. This is my life now, to act as little more than reserve for men's sexual appetites. I am cold, and hunger has become a constant companion. I close my eyes, expecting sleep to come. But a commotion rises outside. a shouting that grows as more voices join in. A deep battle cry cuts through the hubbub, and I think I hear weapons clashing. It is the most interesting thing that has happened since I arrived, and I strain to listen, knowing that, whatever the outcome, I will be used as little more than leverage for the victor. There is no hope in this bunker, and too soon everything goes quiet again. It is not the kind of quiet I am used to. It is silence that consumes even the shallow inlet of my breath and the murmurs of the other slaves around me. My body jerks violently when the doors slam open again and there is a silhouette in the archway. They are tall, much taller than any man. Despite it all, I squint, doing my best to find features in the stranger's shadowed face. The other slaves muffle their fright in their filthy hands, but it takes me a moment longer to take in the creature standing before us. His eyes glint a murderous red as he looks us over, nothing at all like the seething human glances I've grown used to. He is a fearsome orc, and I have no doubt he keeps many slaves. Will he take us too? Add us to his collection? His gaze falls on me. I can't breathe anymore, and my body is frozen. His strong fingers open the cage with ease, something I've been attempting to do for days, and he reaches for me. Finally, my limbs unclench, and I scramble towards the rear of the cage. Normally I'd be afraid of the others, but their attention is entirely on him. When he misses me, he sighs. It is a small thing that escapes his thick chest, but he reaches again, this time catching my arm and dragging me out. I flinch with dreaded expectation. I know what orcs want, and this one can be no different from his kin. He is battle-scarred and fearsome, a ragged line running over his cheek and down his neck, wrapping around out of sight. He is familiar with war, and I must certainly be his prize. But then, he does something I could never have expected. He lifts me up into his arms and secures me tightly against his powerful chest. There is a rumble when he speaks. For your own sake, stay still. The warning is surprisingly gentle. It shocks me into obeying. Maybe this is how he controls his slaves. I can't be sure. But I remain paralysed in his warm grip, lest he decides I broke his rule and kills me. They are not beyond swift punishment when it's convenient for them. An orc's rage is never far below the surface. I don't move, but I dare peek at the bunker through my tangled dark hair. I am shocked to see it in ruins. The rooms have been raided and the residents, those bastards that traded in young women, are on the ground, kneeling as if in submission. I think I see the one who served us slop, face down in his own vomit, with a spear sticking out of his back. And there are more slaves, lined up against the wall as if waiting for a verdict. I try to stop my limbs from shaking, because I know he'll feel it, this red-eyed orc that stole me from my cage. Stay still, he'd told me, and I'm doing my damnedest. But I can't stop the fear from shooting through me. He navigates the kneeling crowd with ease, pacing to several of his own soldiers who linger at the entrance. One in particular stands out. He's not dressed for battle, but for magic. I've seen their magic before, performed by those they call shamans. They wear heavy beads made of bone and wood in their hair, and trophies from kills around their neck. They are always more adorned than even the bloodthirsty soldiers that charge into battle. The orc who stole me from the cage looks down at me and sighs, as if this work exhausts him. I shrink beneath his burning gaze. There is something unspoken in his expression, something firm but even keeled, like there is true intelligence behind his orcish features. I want to ask him so many questions. First of all, why? What does he have to gain from freeing slaves from slavers and scavengers? Does he mean to free us at all? Kill us? He seems to decide on something, his lips firming around those proud tusks that are thick and sharp compared to the others. That's when he hands me to his shaman. Take her. I'll deal with the rest of them and we'll meet again soon. The shaman accepts me without question, but I have been all too obedient and struggle against the transfer. I still don't know what they have planned for me. Wait! His red eyes pan over me, and I can tell he's not used to being questioned. His jaw ticks, but he ignores my outburst, turning away so I view the impressive scar ripping through the muscles of his bare back. The shaman holds me firmly but patiently, even as I strain against him. "Stop, please," I call, pushing against those wiry arms that bind me to his chest. "Tell me who you are." My captor freezes, and I think he's not going to answer me. I hold my breath, waiting for his next words. He is tightly wound when he glances at me again, that heavy gaze falling on me. He must be a chieftain, a true chieftain, not like the war-hungry creatures that decimate whole settlements in their path. There is nobility in his demeanour, and when he pivots, it is with purpose. Even the shaman seems surprised my words have gained traction. He tilts his head as he observes me. "What does it matter? You are free." But even as he says that, he approaches again, glancing between me and the shaman before answering, his mouth forming a firm line. "But if you must know, I am Harok the Great," he says with emphasis. "Of the Thunderstrike clan. And there are no masters here."
Chapter 4. Harok. Is there no end to their cruelty? I have to wonder as I stare into the fetid gloom of the slave-holding. I wouldn't even keep my Hoquins in a place like this. It would be considered too cruel, and yet I find a lone woman looking up at me with fear. But there's something else in her expression. It's a look I recognize all too well. Hopelessness. I've seen this woman before in 100 different faces. She is waiting for the axe to fall, her body tensed as if she's going to run. But where will she go? She is surrounded by crude metal bars and other slaves who would gladly pin her down and take from her what is not theirs to claim. I know she views me as an augur of some terrible fate. This work should bring me satisfaction. It is the third settlement we've torn down in a matter of weeks. I thought our kind had poor relations with the humans, but what they do to one another, it chills me to my core. She does not understand how lucky she is, that she is still breathing. When I release the lock, she scrambles away from me. It is a small sadness I bear, one that has been trampled on and left out in the sun to dry. I'm used to these looks. She has no concept of what will happen next. Who could blame her? But I don my veneer of impatience and grab her anyway. My own kind cannot know that I am favoring the humans. I'm glad these raids liberate innocents from the clutches of their own cruelty, but that is not the ultimate goal. It is to hide my involvement in smuggling. I can claim that the spoils that make our clan richer are from these raids and nothing more. In truth, it is Akida who secures the supplies for us. The humans have vast knowledge that we have barely begun to touch upon. Their books and inventions are proof enough of that. But our presence has made them feral again, little more than creatures of the earth, scrounging and raping whatever they can get their filthy hands on. That is clear by the way they handle their most vulnerable. Like this one. I drag the slave into my arms, and though her limbs push against me, she doesn't cry out. My heart aches for her stalwart defiance in the face of the unknown. "For your own sake," I murmur into her ear. "Stay still." She goes rigid, but does as I tell her to. Her big brown eyes widen as she stares up at me. I try to ignore her, looking over the defeated settlement. My soldiers have made quick work of the place, and the scant resources are secure. They will suffice as a cover for the real goods, which come to us in the shadow of night. We are better for it, and I know I've made the right decision. It is not despite the humans that I do this. I'm glad that the slaves are freed. I have my own plans, but that does not mean I am callous to the good we do. They will live a better life in a settlement more suited to their needs, without cruel masters to command them. I find my loyal soldiers at the entrance, with the shaman rocked, lingering among them. It's him I hand her to, though she's resistant. She's no match for us, but it impresses me that she tries anyway. "Take her," I say. "I'll deal with the rest of them and we'll meet again soon." "Wait!" comes her desperate appeal. She captures my gaze and parts her lips as if to speak again. I cannot get attached, not to a human. It would put my loyalty into question as a chieftain, and my clan might catch on to our deception. Even if it is in their best interest, they will not look kindly upon me for it. I turn my back on her and take a few steps, but her voice cuts through the din of the settlement. Stop, please. Tell me who you are. My teeth grit, but I obey. It is strange that I yield, but I don't mind her sweet voice. I want to hear more of it, even as she is filthy and unkempt from neglect. When I turn, those big eyes fall on me, and I can't help but answer her. What does it matter? You are free. Her silent insistence beckons me. I sigh and come to her again, who is wrapped in Rock's arms. But if you must know, I am Harok the Great of the Thunderstrike clan, and there are no masters here. She licks her parched lips. How long has it been since she's had fresh water? I wanted to say, thank you, Harok. I tilt my head when she says my name, not letting my real emotions show beneath a muted scowl. You are welcome. Every fiber of my being tells me to leave her. I know I should, but I don't want to. Not yet. What is your name, little one? Geneva, she says quickly, glancing down as if it embarrasses her to say. Her long lashes hide her pretty eyes, and I can imagine how she might look, freshly washed and clean. It is a picture I hold in my mind as she speaks. You mean it, what you said about masters? I give a curt nod. There is relief that dawns on her features, and tears glisten, threatening to spill over. I cannot show her preferential treatment in front of my soldiers, so I turn my attention back on Rocked before the conversation grows long. Take her somewhere safe, where she can be with her own kind. We'll finish up the raid before the moon rises, so we can enjoy the spoils of our victory. Yes, sir, several say in unison. I let them go and look over the crowd that we quelled. Some have died in the fight, but most knew better than to cross us when our spears were aimed at their throats. I do not like slavers of any kind, human or otherwise, but this lot has earned their fate. Looking upon them fills me with disgust. I have seen their ledgers and find the practice odious. But we need laborers, and these fine men have just proudly volunteered themselves for the roles. I will put them to work, or someone will, until their backs give out and their bodies fail them. They have done far worse to the women and girls in their care. To the rest of my soldiers I bellow, gather them up! We're going home! They will be considered spoils to my clan as they rise to their feet and shuffle out of the settlement in 2 rows. I lead this miserable parade because I am the chieftain. The woman is long gone. I don't know why, but I didn't want her to see how the men were handled. Even if she was glad to be free, I wonder if she's so hard-hearted as to revel in their suffering. I don't imagine it's likely. It's her I consider as night falls, and we march towards camp in our quiet procession. There is something about her that confuses me. Most humans scream when they see an orc, especially a battle-hardened creature like me. But she begged to know my name instead. There was more than just fear in her eyes. Curiosity, intelligence. I recall her flesh against mine, and touch my bare chest where she had rested, so quietly, so still. She amazes me with her resilience. No one has dared to question me in a long time, and her stubbornness was almost refreshing. She doesn't know what I am capable of. Not really. Still, she asked my name. Are there many more humans like her?
Chapter 5. Geneva. Mine is an entirely new life, here at the settlement. It's strange that I don't have to watch my back any longer. I still do it out of habit, but we're mostly made up of scattered families and lone rescues from other bunkers. No one is out to hurt me here because everyone bears the burden of trauma, in our own way. It's the silence of the children when they should be playing, or the occasional weeping of a woman from a distant hut. That's why most of us strive to make things better around here. There is a guard patrol, but it's there to keep us safe from worse that could slink out of the forest. They still remind me of the settlement Harok saved me from, and I avoid them when I can. The clink of their crude body armour is enough to keep me awake at night. We distract ourselves with the mundane aspects of daily life, maybe in hopes we'll forget our past. But I can't forget mine. I still have family in our old bunker. Every day I wonder if they're thinking about me, and if they're safe. It's been 3 weeks now, but I know I can't go back. The ones that are holding my family hostage will claim I've run away, even though it was Harok who saved me. And bunker number 3 has since been destroyed, so there's little evidence anyway. I hope they think I'm dead. At least then, I couldn't be used as leverage against what's left of my family. My heart aches at the thought as I wash clothes in the river. There is so much to do here at the settlement that it helps me forget what I left behind. I have to keep moving forward. The chores are easy enough. The others here expect only what we can manage, and I am happy to help in any way I can. There are others that work alongside me. Small talk is limited, though. Usually, we remain silent while we go about our tasks. It's the trauma that often quells any excitement. So, when people do talk, it goes unsaid that everyone listens. At first, it starts as a murmur. 2 women at the edge of the clearing are the first to speak. They eye us, but their attention is behind them. They had emerged from foraging not long ago with a meagre haul of berries and nuts. I'd heard them come out of the woods earlier, but pay them no mind until their hushed voices prick my ears. I strain to listen. What an unfortunate mess. Their infighting better not put the settlement in danger, or this place is forfeit. My boys aren't going to like having to leave again. Where will we go? My littlest doesn't know anywhere else. The speaker lowers her voice so I can hardly hear. But a word stands out. Orc. I abandon my chores as if to take a break. My feet lead me up the hill, and I recline against a tree, listening hard though I close my eyes. "Who is it?" murmurs the second woman. "How should I know?" the first returns. "There was too much blood to tell, and it's probably for the best anyway. I don't like making the Thunderstrike clan's business my own, and you shouldn't either." My heart lurches. Infighting within the Thunderstrike clan. I have to wonder if Harok is okay. When orcs fight, it can get ugly. They're behemoths already, and a single battle can devastate whole clans. But this isn't just any clan. I can't stand not knowing and peel off the tree to approach the women. They hush when I do. "I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt," I say, taking in their wide eyes and gaunt expressions. These are not women that have had a peaceable afternoon foraging for resources. Even their baskets are light from a journey they returned from too soon. "But did you say something about the Thunderstrike clan?" The younger one nods, but the older one slaps her shoulder. Quiet. "We did," she says anyway, much to the chagrin of her companion. "Oh, quit it. It's not some great secret. What does it matter to you anyway?" "We don't get involved, that's what," the older woman says, readjusting the basket on her hip defiantly. "And you shouldn't either," she says to me. "Best stay out of their way if you can. Those bastards are touchy on a good day." "So," I say, apprehension building in my chest. "This is about the orcs from the Thunderstrike clan. You said there was blood. Where did you see them?" "At the bottom of the—" The elder offers a seething glance, shutting the younger one up. That's enough. I have a right to know, I say. I live here too. The sour woman looks me up and down with a heavy frown that creases her cheeks. You're too optimistic, thinking you can help those creatures. I'm surprised they haven't gone extinct, the way they fight with each other. It would be better for everyone if they did. Something about her words hits me in the gut. It wasn't orcs that put me in a cage and took my sister. It wasn't orcs that held me hostage against my family and forced us all into slavery. It was humans. And if it wasn't for one particular orc, I wouldn't be here. I have to know, I emphasize, approaching the sour woman. You don't understand. I owe the Thunderstrike clan a great debt, and if I can, I'm going to help. Her resolve falters. I see it in the flare of her eyes. She's a gossip. Likes to talk big but has little to back it up. I can already tell she's about to cave in, and I'm not one to surrender easily. There's a long, deadly silence before she finally gives. She starts with a sigh. We heard the fighting first. It was above us, some distance. We were only there because there's always late strawberries that grow in the shadow of the mountain. I was showing May that very spot when something came crashing down. I thought it was a great tree branch at first, but then it tried to stand up. It was one of them. She glances to her young companion. An orc. We didn't see the ones he was fighting with, but no one came after him. It's not as if we stayed to check, the young one, May, retorts. We didn't even verify if he was from the Thunderstrike clan. He must have been. There's no other clan for miles around. My frustration grows as they continue to bicker before I grab the older one's arm. Tell me exactly where you found him. Her stunned look is priceless, but she finally points in a direction I can follow. At the foot of the mountain, about 1.5 miles that way. Thank you, I say, leaving the women to argue between themselves. Someone else will finish my chores. There is no shortage of extra hands here in the settlement, and they'll hardly miss me. If I pass up this opportunity to repay Harok, I won't be able to forgive myself. Maybe it's one of his subordinates that has been injured, but a bad feeling follows me, only growing as I get closer to the foot of the mountain. I expect to hear fighting or some sign that I'm close, but the forest is calm if it were ever disturbed. Without even a day's worth of rations, I slip through the forest, the mountain's ascent on my left keeping me oriented. I just hope I'm not too late.
Chapter 6. Harok. I do this for my clansmen. It's something I have to remind myself as I ascend the steep mountainside. Several of my soldiers would have died by now, if it weren't for the medicines and supplies Akita has provided us with. It's the deception I hate, but we've come too far now. I've hidden our meetings from everyone except a select few that I trust. I cannot let it get out, while the council is against such exchanges. They accuse me of colluding with outsiders to bring humans into our territory, which is true, I suppose. Akita is an ally from a neighboring clan. He is their leader, and I envy how he works with humans in the open without fear of retaliation. It is something I strive to achieve in my lifetime, but many in my clan are far too stubborn to hear reason. So we must conduct our trade in secret. Our crops, too, are benefiting from this trade. They are human tricks that Akita has learned from his alliances with those more familiar with the indigenous plant life. It's little things like this that convince me we should be more open to creating real connections with humans. They have so much to teach us. Akita has not yet arrived. I must keep those I trust near. My 3 trusted subordinates are beside me now. The council is keeping a close eye on me, as of late, because they're afraid of the change I threaten to bring. It's as if they already know. My 3rd Urul remains nearest to me, and I'm growing fond of the idea of dismissing them. They are too worried about me. Their secret glances are enough to make any orc tear out his hair. I am their chieftain for a reason. I've proven myself 100 times over, and I'm still risking my station to better my clan. Urul shifts on his feet as we wait. I don't like the way his eyes flit to the shadows. I take note of the light sheen on his brow, though the weather has been temperate, or how he reaches for the handle of his axe when there are no enemies around. Finally, Akita shows his face, and the relief is palpable. "There you are," I say in a hushed but confident tone, clapping him on the shoulder in a familiar gesture. "Should we get to it, then?" Akita waves the orcs leading Hokeen forward, the heavy creatures towing the weight of my supplies. "By all means," he says. "And as always, Harok, it is good to see you." I could say the same. Ural handled the transaction. Akida had asked only a meager price for such a wealth of resources. We've secured our future for another month, at least, before Akida leaves us with a silent farewell. He disappears into the forest as easily as he appeared. I will meet with him in a week's time, and we will conduct a similar transaction. I'm filled with pride, not for myself, but for my clan who will see better days with our haul. I'm proud of my subordinates, too, who will remain silent under the council's scrutiny. We take the high path along the mountain to ease the Hokeen's travels. They're reliable beasts, but the steep decline can be dangerous for any four-legged creature, so we find ourselves crawling gradually up the mountain on the southern side. It is our usual route that will eventually lead to back down towards our camp. The path has become so familiar, I have since stopped watching my footing, focusing on the silence among my trusted allies. It is a heavy thing that confuses me. Though the exchange is conducted in confidence, they're usually loud and boisterous after such a successful day, but they don't even pretend to be jovial. Something is wrong, and I can't tell what. It is when Ural throws himself to the ground that my fears are verified. His forehead presses to the earth as he kowtows deeply. "My chieftain, I must beg your forgiveness." I am about to ask what, when enemy orcs storm in, cutting the supplies from the snarling Hokeen and rushing our ranks. My other two allies pull out their blades as if they were as surprised at the betrayal as I. Ural remains on the ground as I draw a weapon to defend myself. There are 4 of us, and easily 10 of them. My blade comes out just in time as a heavy hammer arches down at me with the intent to crush my skull. I block it, but lose ground as our enemies swarm us. "Ural, you bastard," I think, gritting my teeth as I throw the offender off me, only to have him replaced by 2 more. "What have you done?" He disappears in the scuffle on neither side of this fight. I don't have time to consider what role he played in my betrayal, or who these orcs are that have overwhelmed us. It's not the time to think. It's time to act. A fearsome roar escapes me as I knock 3 back with one brutal swing of my sword. They stagger and right themselves, coming at me with hateful yellow eyes. They mean to end me. And my allies, what's left of them, are doing all they can to protect me. I go wide, catching one unfortunate orc with the butt of my blade, sending him reeling to the ground. He doesn't get back up, but one of his takes the opportunity and lunge with a dagger, sinking it deep into the flesh of my shoulder. I reel from the pain of it, the blade jutting out at an odd angle when I reach for it. I yank it free, and hot fluid oozes down my back. My breath comes hot as I try to recover, and I find a solid fighting stance. But the pain drags me down and slows my movements, so that their attacks are too fast. I can't keep track of them, my sight going blurry with the blood loss. I stumble forward with my blade at the ready, but they easily leap out of the way before closing in on my flank. My head is fuzzy, but I know I'm done for if they surround me. I don't see my allies in this mess any longer. My legs threaten to give out when I raise my blade to defend myself. I can't imagine my life ending here, where no one will ever find me. I cling to wakefulness as the sharp pain in my shoulder becomes an overbearing throb that pounds in my head. The supplies are lost, my allies are scattered, and I will never return to my clan. I bare my tusks in defiance. They will not see me go down easily. I know it is not Akita that betrayed me. It was one of my own, and Ural was just a pawn to their influence. He felt remorse where the orchestrator felt none, or they might have come to me in confidence first. Their dishonor obviously meant less to them than my death. I know that with a clarity that is beyond my waning focus. It's a flash of sudden, terrible realization. I pivot and try to find an opening. They're mocking me, laughing and swinging at me. My arm gets a nick when I dodge too slowly, and I lunge at the offender. Weapons clash, and my body struggles to stay strong. They must have cut deeper than I realized. When I stumble again, it is not an enemy that catches me, but an ally. There's a desperate gleam in Radu's eyes. "I'm sorry about this," he says, clasping my shoulders tightly before shoving me off the mountain's edge. There's a moment where I'm airborne and haven't yet fallen. Our eyes are locked as the enemies swarm my devoted soldiers, and I'm left to crash through the low canopy, every branch a searing agony as I tumble to the base of the mountain, face down. I try to raise my head. There are voices, frantic but hushed, that float around me. I can't understand a word they're saying as darkness descends over my vision, and my head hits the earth with a thud.
Chapter 7. Geneva. The scent of blood overwhelms me well before I spot a body amidst the growth. His deep emerald skin conceals him, so I might have tripped over him if there weren't so much red saturating the earth around him. He's face down, but it's the scar over his shoulder that I recognise. Harok. My breathing halts briefly before I find myself again and kneel beside him. His muscles are burning beneath his flesh, and though he's not moving, his chest expands every so often. It's hardly a relief as I glance around, searching for signs of the fight. The woman had said it was up on the mountain, where they'd heard the scuffle. I shield my eyes and glance in that direction, finding nothing but green as far as I can see. That's when something firm snakes around my wrist and drags me in. I buckle to my knees and am face to face with the creature who had once saved me. Harok's hot breath washes over me when he speaks, his eyes barely managing to remain open. He doesn't see me through the veil of agony etched in his hard features, and his grip threatens to break the delicate bones of my wrist. "Help," is all he says before his body goes slack again, releasing me from his hold. The wound on his shoulder oozes fresh blood. Tears spring in my eyes. I want to help, but how? I am just a singular human, and he weighs easily 700 pounds with his fierce physique. I'm no doctor either. His wound is deep by the look of it, and will need to be cleaned and stitched if it's going to heal properly. My trembling hands pass over the old scar along his back. He's been through so much already, and it would be a pity to see this generous soul die face down in the dirt. Where are his own kind? Did they turn on him? I consider hailing the other humans from our settlement. Maybe they will help me haul him back and we can treat him with the proper care his wounds require. But then I recall the woman's jaded remarks. Would the others feel the same? Does his kind deserve to go extinct? Something inside me riots against the notion. Not him. I don't know about the others, but I remember how he liberated me from my cage and took me into his arms. The sadness in his features at my unfortunate predicament. I dare stroke the strong line of his jaw. He begged me to help him, and I'll never forgive myself if I leave him here to die. His plea would haunt my every waking moment. So I rack my brain, considering the best plan of action under the circumstances. I am alone in this task, but it is not impossible. There is an abandoned cabin, not far from us, that I found some time back, when I was foraging for food. No one goes there because they're afraid of the wild creatures that are said to live around there. It would be the perfect place to bring him. But how? I don't know if he has the strength to rise, but he's my only chance. I squeeze his shoulder, trying to rouse him gently. Harok, I need you wake up. I'm going to bring you somewhere safe, but I can't carry you on my own. My appeal gets no response. I sigh and try to lift his arm. It feels like an impossible task before his muscles flex and something rouses in him. His eyes remain closed, but he lets me hoist him up against me, most of his weight falling on me. I strain beneath him, still standing impossibly. But with each step, it becomes easier to haul him forward. Even as he's weak and nearly unconscious, I expect he's helping me as best he can. His breathing is laboured, and his head lolls dangerously, as if he's already passed out again. I manage to shoulder his weight and press on, the sweat beading on my forehead. I almost cry with relief when the cabin comes into sight over a low hill. It is a matter of endurance to make it to the broken doorway. The place is in ruins, but it will serve well enough over the next few days. What happened to him? He seemed well respected among his own, and he looked to be a fair leader too. But maybe the woman from my new settlement was right. Orcs are known for their infighting. Chieftains are usurped all the time, from the stories I've been told, and maybe he was a victim of such a betrayal. Hopefully, he'll tell me when he wakes up. I grunt as we breach the doorway, my legs threatening to give out. There's a musty, sagging bed in the corner, long since unused, that will serve well enough until I can get proper bedding from among my things at the settlement. He slides from me in a heap, landing with a plume of dust billowing around him. I roll him on his stomach so I can better assess the wounds when I return with more resources. There are a few things I have to gather before I can mend his injuries anyway. But I stall, paying close attention to his soft inlet of breath. There are so many things I don't know about him, and I regret it. His scars tell stories his mouth cannot, in the moment, and it fills me with a deep sadness. When I first saw him, I was frightened beyond reason, but his act of mercy changed everything for me. I did not think an orc could show such kindness. How Harok proved me wrong, and I'm glad for it. The blood on his skin is beginning to crust and flake, but the worst of the wounds still oozes with each pulse of his strong heart. Holding vigil over him will do his injuries no good. I have to gather herbs to keep his injuries from festering and killing him. It is with that resolve that I try to wipe the blood away. I give myself a moment longer to recover, stroking the weathered skin of his hand. Even there, he has little scars and calluses all over his fingers, like he was born with a blade in his hand. At his waist, his sheath is empty. He must have lost his weapon on the way down the mountain. Again, I wonder what could have felled him. He is bigger than most orcs I've seen, and even those of his own clan. His broad shoulders are impressive, to say the least. Their heavy ridges speak of the incredible strain he's been made to bear. My touch lingers in the cleft between his shoulder blades before I pull away at the indecency. I shouldn't consider such things when he cannot wake. Perhaps he has a mate waiting for him to return. My cheeks warm at the thought. I withdraw, unsure of where to start. If I return to the settlement too early, they will not let me out so soon before evening. I have to stop the bleeding first, or he will go hours without care, and that could kill him. I lean in, tucking his wild dark hair from his face, and speak low so as not to startle him. I promise, Harok, I'm going to do everything in my power to save you. Just hang in there for me. Chapter 8. Geneva. I hate to do it, but I am forced to leave Harok in the shack alone. It makes me nervous as he's unconscious, but I have to make sure all of our tracks are covered. Nothing would make this situation worse than a wild animal tracking Harok to the dilapidated building while I am gone. Reversing my way here, I pick through the underbrush, searching for any traces of where we have been. Thankfully, I see none, and as I work back to the bushes that I found the orc in, I pick the herbs needed to create a healing salve. Just past the bushes is a massive stream, and I pause on the edge, filling a flask and tearing off strips of fabric from the edges of my shirt. I dip them in the water to cleanse them, scrubbing at them furiously, and I curse beneath my breath at how frustrating it is to have no access to proper tools. Once I'm sure the cloths are as clean as I can get them, I start my trek back to the shack, and my eyes sweep across the forest floor to do a more thorough inspection of the trail. Still, I see nothing, which is a huge relief as it seems I am always unlucky. For once, it appears that fate is letting me have a pass. Inside the shack, Harok is still unconscious. I'm certain he hasn't moved, and as I get closer, I can see a fine sheen of sweat across his face. If he has developed a fever, I fear that his condition may be worse than what I can cure on my own. I mash the herbs and water together to make a paste, and being as careful as I can, wipe his wounds clean. They are crusted with blood and dirt, but he doesn't stir as I scrub his skin. With a clean strip, I coat it in the paste and wrap it around his wounds, allowing it to set as I work on the next area. With my steady, experienced hands, his skin is shining clean in no time. The pastes are hardening, creating a protective shell around his wounds, and for that, I am grateful. None of them look infected, which is another blessing, and I sink back on my heels to admire my handiwork. I know he needs nourishment, but I can't give him that if he's unconscious. Still, I swipe my flask from the floor and sit beside his head. I cradle it in my lap, and my heart softens a bit as I run my hand down the side of his face. Do you know why I am risking my life to save you? I whisper to him, even though I know he can't hear me. You are the only being to show me kindness. I thought that everyone had turned cold, and I had always been told that orcs were dangerous, deadly creatures. You, though, saved my life during one of my darkest moments, and trust me, there have been many. You became my beacon of hope and a shining light in this dark, bleak world. I try to shift him up, pressing the flask to his lips, and his body responds enough to gulp down what is left in it. I gentle him back onto the ground and peek up at the sky. Night has started to fall. I can't be gone too much longer before my people start to grow suspicious. There is no such thing as concern in this camp, but they will hunt me down just to know what I have been doing. I need to make it back, just to ensure someone sees me return. Creeping through the woods on silent feet, I sneak back into the settlement, and I send up a prayer that no one will ask after my afternoon. Hopefully, no one has cared too terribly much where I have been. Of course, I can only use so much of my luck in one day, and I know I have hit my limit because I see the woman that I spoke to earlier approaching. She knows that I ran off to find the orc, and my whole body stiffens as I fear that she will out me. "Did you find him?" she asks me, her eyes dancing with curiosity. I try to feign nonchalance. I shrug, gazing off towards the settlement. When I got down there, he was already gone. "Are you sure?" The woman presses. "He was badly injured. I doubt he could have just walked away." My eyes narrow on her even as my heart starts to pound. I can't tell you what happened if I didn't see it. Now, if you'll excuse me. I brush past her, and she seems a little stunned but not suspicious. I hold my breath as I rush to obtain my 3 outfit pieces and worn-out bedding allotted by the settlement for the night. Finding a dark spot on the edge of the settlement, I bundle the fabrics up together and, using them as a pillow, curl up on my side. I tuck into myself, my anxiety running rampant and making me nauseous. I just have to remain calm until the others go to bed. I wait until I hear most everyone settle down before lifting my head up to look around. I'm not sure anyone can see me, but even if they could, they all seem to be asleep. Rolling even farther out of the light, I pull myself up to my feet and pick my way carefully into the forest. I'm too eager to see Harok again, and I know I need to check on him. It may have only been a few hours, but a lot can change in a short amount of time with the kind of wounds he sustains. I'm so lost in my head as I slip between the trees that I almost don't hear the footfalls of another person. I am dangerously close to stepping right in their path when I hear a branch break beneath one of their heavy steps. I freeze, scrambling back behind an enormous trunk, and my nerves come alive. It feels like a fire is burning through me as I wait for them to pass, but they don't move. "Did you see that?" It's the low rumble of a man's voice, and I know that it is our patrolling team. There will be 2, maybe 3 of them. "See what?" the other asks. I could have sworn I saw someone. The leaves crunch under his feet as he inches closer. "Right through here." "I didn't see anyone." "Are you sure that someone would be so far from the settlement? Why else would we be out here?" "To watch for orcs, you blockhead." there is a scrape of another boot. Now, look here. A low whistle echoes through the woods, and my head jerks towards the noise. In between the trees stand a girl, probably my age, her shirt tied loosely around her waist to show off her chest. The men gasp, and she grins, beckoning them with her hand, before turning away and walking back into the darkness. They scramble after her, forgetting all about me, and while it pains me to see how dead her eyes were, I know that women will do anything to survive in this world. Taking men to bed to ensure protection isn't an unusual sight in these times. I sigh, picking up my pace as I race through the underbrush, and I am careful to keep my ears perked up this time. Luckily, I don't encounter any other challenges as the moon lights my way back to the shack. My heart eases a little as it comes into view, and I try to shake out the jitters as I hurry inside, eager to see how Harok is doing.
Chapter 9. Harok. White-hot fire in my shoulder is the first sensation that grips me, followed by a growing hammering in my head. I flinch against the assault, but it only makes my collective pains worse. Why did I even bother waking at all? There's no relief when I open my eyes to parse out my surroundings. At least it is not the forest floor. But it is no reassurance, because I don't remember how I got here. It is a room, dimly lit by flames that flicker against the ruined beams of a strange cabin. The roof has collapsed in places, but above me looks solid enough. When I shift to rise, the pain blossoms into agony. I grunt and try to push through it, refusing to be held hostage by such trifles. I am a warrior and a chieftain, not a bleeding child. Still, my body refuses to obey, and I sink back down into an old mattress, closing my eyes with gritted teeth. A memory surfaces of soft words in a shadow. Just hang in there for me. It was not one of my allies, but a woman's voice, high and soothing. I think I recall where I'd heard it before, but the memory slips like silt through my fingers. It is what has kept me here, when I might have drifted off entirely, and I cling to it. My eyes open again. The sky through the ruined roof is lighter now, with a heavy moon bright overhead. Time must have passed, though I don't remember falling back to sleep. My mouth is parched so that I can hardly swallow, and the pain returns on a great rush that makes me hiss out my discomfort. The fire still burns, but this time there is a figure sitting with their back to me. The flames lap at the shapely silhouette so that I can make out the barest of details. I study her, for she must be a female, with her slight build and carefully managed toss of hair. Even just her company, whether or not she knows I'm awake, is a comfort. When I try to flex, I feel a tug around the worst of my wounds. For my head, there is no cure, but she seemed to have patched me up while I slept. I part my cracked lips and try to speak, a sound that means nothing escapes me instead. Still, it does exactly what I hoped it would. It gets her attention. Her head whips around so she can look at me, her features cast in heavy shadows. "You're awake." Her relief is palpable as she rises to check on me, her features coming into focus in the moonlight. I've seen her before somewhere, but this damned headache prevents me from remembering. Her voice is familiar, that constant in my fever dreams. She has a water skin that she puts to my lips, and I drink without thought. She could have filled the container with poison, but if she had intended to kill me, she might have let the forest do the heavy lifting. I'm sure it was no easy feat for her to bring me here. My shallow laugh devolves into a ragged cough that racks me. The woman pulls away too soon as I curl in on myself with the pain, but I reach out and catch her hand with the skin. "No," I begin, trying to keep my head from reeling. "Please, I'm not finished." She is frozen in my grip, petrified by our connection, but she finally lets go of the skin and withdraws, looking me over with renewed caution. I finally drink my fill. When it is finished, regret seeps in. Was that all she had left? I didn't consider that she might be thirsty too, and hand it back to her drained. I'm about to thank her when our eyes meet, and I recall where I'd seen her before. You, I whisper, staring as she fondles the empty water skin. I remember you. You're Harok the Great, I know. Her voice is just as my memory served. She was the slave in the cage, though she looks much improved under the moonlight. I wonder what she'd look like in the sun. No less captivating, I'm certain. I would have brought you back to our settlement, but they're not friendly to your kind. I thought it best. She trails off, looking around the tired shelter. It's not much, but I didn't want to leave you in the woods. I try to sit up, perhaps to apologize for my brusque behavior. But she rises and fusses until I'm lying down again. Please. You were very injured when I found you. I don't want you to strain yourself and make your injuries worse. I do as she says, strangely captivated by her. She did save me after all. I am in your debt then. Surprise flares in her expression, and she shakes her head. I would say the books are balanced between us. A life for a life is an adequate exchange, don't you think? I don't answer right away. There are a host of orcs who would kill for me to owe them a life debt, and she dismisses it without question. I am silenced by her, and it is not often I find myself in such a predicament. So I encourage her to speak instead. You are Geneva, if my memory serves. Is that a blush that crawls over the bridge of her dainty nose? She glances away when she answers. You remembered. It'd be impossible to forget such a beautiful creature, I want to say, but she has the upper hand and could fell me with a dark look if she desires. Where are we? I ask instead. Somewhere between your camp and our settlement, she says without delay, leaning back on her heels as if to get comfortable beside me. You were badly injured in a fall and an attack, I think. I couldn't find any of your clanmates in the vicinity. You must have fallen from the mountain and hit your head. You were also bleeding heavily, and I stopped up the wound with herbs and dressed them as best I could. I watch her shapely lips move. That was 2 days ago, she says, sending panic through me like I didn't know she could. 2 days? The last thing I remember of the battle is Radu's face, with an apology on his lips. Were they overwhelmed? If so, they must surely be dead of their injuries by now. And the clan, a different flavor of agony grips me. It can't have been 2 days. It's not possible. When I rise, she tries to stop me, but she doesn't have the strength to. I grab her arms harder than I intend to and nearly shake her, though I know she has nothing to do with this. It's her expression that stops me. That same look of fear she had for me in her cage, when she scrambled to get free of me. It hurts my heart more deeply than any blade could cut, and I release her. I'm sorry, I whisper, falling back to the lumpy mattress and averting my eyes in shame. This time, though, she doesn't pull away, and in fact leans over me with a forgiving expression. She tucks her short hair behind one ear. Don't apologize. You've just woken after a long sleep. I can only imagine how disoriented you are right now. I am in no state to wield a blade, and truly I can't imagine that I can stand on my own 2 feet yet. She has fussed over me for 2 days, and I'm no better than a beast if I cannot control myself. It is no excuse to handle you so. Her lips purse as she looks me over with hard eyes, then shakes her head as if she's determined that I am to be pitied and not feared. What happened to you, Harok? Chapter 10. Harok. I stare at her with parted lips, the words hanging in the air between us. As Geneva searches my eyes, I can see her begging me to answer. I know that my staring at her isn't giving her anything, but no matter how hard I try to force the words up, nothing happens. I can almost feel the words lodged at the base of my throat, my wounds causing me to be too weak to use any of my muscles. While I knew that I was having a hard time accessing any of my strength, I hadn't expected that to extend to my vocal cords. The frustration of not having a voice makes rage flare up in the pit of my stomach. It licks up my skin, heating me from the inside out, and as I try harder to answer her question, my voice escapes me further. I hate the way that I have been crippled. I am a great chieftain, but I can't do anything. I rose to fame for my fighting prowess, and my name instills fear in those that come to battle my clan. If they could see me now being treated like an infant by a human woman, they would no longer tremble at the sight of me. Her hand brushes across my face, shaking free the thoughts in my head, and I stare up into her deep brown eyes. When I woke up in this shack, I wouldn't have expected Geneva to be the one to have saved me, and it makes me wonder if we were predestined to meet. How could it be that one of the women that I saved in turn helps me? Though she told me that I had been asleep for 2 days, I can already feel my eyelids growing heavier as we stare at each other. She shakes her head at me, urging me to stay awake as she tries to nourish me. It's difficult, though, as my body isn't helping much. As my head starts to droop, Geneva gentles me onto my side. Black flashes across my vision as my exhaustion sweeps up my body, and it doesn't take long for me to fall asleep. It's a restless, dreamless night, though, and as my body jerks and fights against the fog blanketing my mind, I'm pulled back awake. My skin is covered in goosebumps, and I am shivering violently against the cold. My body's reaction worries me, and I wonder if my wound is infected. I don't detect any pain around it, and I believe that Geneva cleaned it well. Still, perhaps something had occurred before she found me. I try to curl up on myself, but I can't move it. With my body left lying in a straight line, none of my warmth is conserved, and I am nearly convulsing on the floor. Suddenly, warmth engulfs me. At first, it's just around my waist, and then it spreads up my back and across my sides. It covers me everywhere but my face and feet. I realize as she shifts that Geneva has wrapped herself around me. Her arms are clinging to my middle, and her legs are slung across my hips. She's almost straddling my body, my size so much larger than hers that she's had to climb atop me to warm me up. Instinctively, I stiff beneath her touch. I'm not used to being caught in an embrace, and discomfort courses through me. As she thaws my cooled skin, though, I relax into the embrace and am lulled back to sleep as I start to feel comfortable again. 4 days have passed since I first woke up in the small shack. Geneva and I have fallen into a routine, I realize as I watch her wipe my skin clean. Each morning she leaves after ensuring that I've been taken care of, and as the sun starts to set in the evening, she returns with food and water. I'm not sure she knows that I am awake each night when she curls up around my body, but I've noticed she does each night when my body starts to shake. It amazes me how much warmth I'm able to receive from her thin frame, but her efforts and care have really touched me, softening my heart. As I stare at her, I can't help but notice how frail she looks. It hasn't been lost on me that she gives me most of the food, if not all of it. It's mostly vegetables that she scrounges from the forest, but it's better than having nothing. I worry she has lost weight since I first saw her, and I feel guilty because I know I am greatly responsible for that. I want to take care of her, but I am still incredibly weak due to the amount of blood that I've lost. The hit to the head hasn't helped matters much either. She rocks back on her heels as she finishes, reaching up to touch my cheek gently. It's something I notice she does often, and I don't know if it provides her with comfort or if she wants to comfort me. Either way, I enjoy her touch, and it kills me that I can't smile up at her as she does it. "Your wounds are looking much better," she tells me, and I think she knows I can't twist to evaluate them myself. "Is your strength coming back?" She does this frequently, I've noticed. She asks questions as if she's curious how I will answer. At first, I just blinked up at her, and I could see the disappointment she had tried to conceal. Today, though, I am feeling the best I have so far. My fingers twitch, and I am able to slide my hand over a few inches to squeeze her knee, which is still pressed into the ground beside my body. Geneva gasps, her eyes darting down to look at my hand. "That's the first time I've seen you move." My facial muscles war against me, and I'm not sure if I manage it, but I think I am able to force my mouth up into a small smile for her. She pats my hand before climbing to her feet, gathering her few belongings. Her gaze is sad as it lingers on me, and she forces her eyes away. "I have to leave now," she nearly whispers. Her voice is so low. Her mouth opens like she is going to say something else, but her jaw snaps shut as if she seems to think better of it. She turns and leaves without another word. I stare up through the holes between the broken boards above me. It's the only thing I can do when she is gone. As a chieftain, it is odd for me to have so much downtime. I'm not used to it, and I get restless throughout the day. Although my body isn't cooperating with me, I map out plans in my mind for when I return to my full strength. It entertains me as I wait here alone. I track the light in the sky as the sun shifts, and I try to stretch out my muscles. My fingers and toes are moving easily now, and I can roll my ankles and wrists. I exert a lot of my energy trying to extend my control up my arms and legs. As the sky begins to darken, my heart kicks up in gear. I know that Geneva will be back soon, and I've started to grow excited at the prospects of seeing her. My stomach knots as the sun begins to set, and I can barely hold it together as I'm thrilled to show her what I have been working on all day. As night blankets the sky, though, my stomach turns for another reason. Geneva is usually here by now, and I worry why she hasn't come back. I can't go looking for her, but I fear for what has happened to her. A roar of frustration builds in my chest, but it dies there, reminding me that no matter what she is going through, I have to sit here and wait it out, forced to wonder where she is.
Chapter 11. Geneva. With every morning that has passed, I have found it harder and harder to leave Harok. At first, I was drawn to him because I see kindness in him, the kind that I didn't believe existed anymore. Now, though, I have grown used to his company. Being with him is enjoyable, something I've never been able to say before, and it makes me resentful of the people in the settlement. It is sad how quiet and harsh the people of the community are. Times are tough, but Harok is showing me that you can choose to be a better, bright person in spite of it. There are still some things that make it difficult to be completely relaxed around him. He is a very large, masculine orc, and although I tell myself that all I do for him is just to heal him, it doesn't keep me from getting embarrassed when I need to clean his body. I don't think he minds much, not that I would really know since he can't speak or move, but I found myself turning bright red as I am shy around a male body. At the same time, I find my heart starts racing whenever I peel away the clothes and blankets I have wrapped him in, and I'm not sure why it happens. I try to touch him as little as possible as I work and avert my eyes from certain areas if I can help it. And at night, when he begins to shake, I ensure he is asleep before wrapping my body around him. I have never been the kind of woman to take to a man's bed, and I do not wish to start that reputation either. Or at least that's what I tell myself when it comes to my reservations in his presence. Today marks 5 days since I found him, and I speak quietly to him as I work, trying to distract my mind. I know that he hasn't been able to move or speak yet, but I am hopeful that with time, he will come back to himself. It is a bit lonely staying with someone who can't respond to me, but it's better than having to stay on my toes at all times like I do back in the settlement. The women there are like predators and make me uneasy. I had hoped that I would see some improvement, but besides the odd twitches of his fingers and his effort to touch my knee this morning as I left, there have been none. It worries me that he is still so weak, and I know that he is having a hard time replenishing all the blood he lost. Cursing beneath my breath, I trudge through the forest. I made my appearance in the settlement already, crossing through from my sleeping spot behind a tree, as I do each morning to receive my chore for the day. I already finished sorting through our supplies and marking what was in need, so the rest of the day I am free to find something that will actually help Harok. I know that he needs meat. The veggies have hardly been doing anything, and I need to give him more food to see an improvement. The settlement rarely provides meat for us, though, so whatever I'm going to give him, I will have to hunt and kill myself. This isn't my first hunt, I remind myself as I slip deeper into the woods, farther out than I have ever been. My father has taken me a handful of times, shown me how to sharpen blades and fashion traps. A soft smile plays on my lips as I think of him. I miss my family terribly, and sorrow fills me any time I think of them. Like always, I erase the thought as soon as it pops into my head. It's better that I leave them behind to continue to survive. I'm not sure if they know what has happened to me, but I hope that they all think I'm dead. Otherwise, the leader of my old settlement would take out his anger about my situation on my family. Refocusing my mind, I push through the thick underbrush, ignoring the way that branches catch and tear at my legs. It stings, but I suck in a deep breath and keep going. I am hopeful that there are wild chickens or rabbits in this area. Based on the occasional panther or bobcat that's been caught too close to our settlements, I have to assume that something is out here for them to hunt. I make quick work setting traps throughout the path. I dig deep holes, covering them with branches and leaves, and even sprinkling a little of the veggies that I have stuffed in my pockets on top as bait. Some of the others have mentioned seeing rabbits frequent these areas, although they have never come back with any when they come to scavenge for food. But by the time the sun is high above me, I still haven't seen a single one. It's drifting deep into the afternoon, the sun much too close to the horizon, when I grow discouraged. I know that Harok must be starving, as I didn't leave any food out with him. Not only do I not have meat, but I haven't managed to find any fruits or vegetables while I was out here either, and wasted what little I had swiped from the settlement this morning. Today has been a huge waste. I start to rush through the paths, searching over the vegetation for mushrooms or berry bushes as I try to devise a plan. I may have to return to the settlement and beg for food. I am willing to do so if it will keep Harok alive. As I start to contemplate turning around, I hear the sharp snap of a branch, and I freeze. I turn as the soft bleating of an animal fills my ears. I take off in the direction of the noise, pausing as I push through the bushes and find myself a few feet from a deer. I grin, immediately overjoyed as I realise that its back legs are broken. It's crying out, struggling to climb back to its feet as it slips over itself, a pool of blood surrounding its body. The deer would feed us for a few days, and Harok would grow much stronger from it. Before I can get too excited, though, it takes off, its legs dragging behind it, and I sigh. Pulling out my knife, I take off after it, hopeful that I can hunt a wounded deer as it tears off through the woods. It should be slower, and the trail of blood behind it makes it easy to keep up with. I'm gaining on it, the deer now firmly in my sight when it dives off the path. I stumble, barely able to keep up as I follow it, but as luck would have it, it steps onto one of my traps. It flips over as its foot goes straight through the branches, landing it solidly inside the hole. I rush forward before it could tell what is going on. My heart is soaring, and I can't wait to see Harok's face when I return with this deer. Sliding to the ground next to the deer, I poise my knife, ready to slit its throat. I feel a little guilty about chasing the poor thing down, but it needed to die anyway. Briefly, I wonder what could have done this kind of damage to a deer, but I push it out of my mind as I bring the blade down, slicing through the air. A loud roar erupts behind me, making me jump, and my knife embeds itself into the dirt. I freeze, my handle still gripping the handle as I throw a look over my shoulder to see what is now hunting me. Chapter 12. Geneva. My heart is thundering in my chest as I yank my knife free from the ground. The deer is still screaming in its shallow grave, and I am twisted in my squat, my eyes scanning the woods. The roar had sounded like it was right behind me, but I don't see anything there. There is no sign of an animal, no broken branch or even the shift of foliage that had been brushed out of the way. I had expected the beast to be bearing down on me, and goosebumps creep across my flesh when I realised that nothing looked out of place. I know that what I heard must be close, though, and it is not going to be friendly. In fact, there's a good chance that I have seriously angered something that I don't want to cross paths with. These forests are loaded with wild animals that I had always hoped I wouldn't have to encounter. As I turn back towards the deer, it has twisted to reveal something I didn't notice before. An enormous bite. On its back haunches, there is a massive oval that I recognise, and my body starts to tremble instantly. Before going hunting, I was taught to recognize the signs of a few beasts we may encounter. Though my father had always told me it was unlikely that I would come across the one now hunting me, he had shown me how its jaws were wide, wider than anything else in the woods, and its fangs were longer, creating deep gouges. This was one animal I always feared to encounter: a lion. I should have adhered to the warnings floating around the settlement. Everyone has been speaking of a monster out in these woods, and I have been ignoring the whispers. I have a strong suspicion that this lion must be the monster that they were speaking of. I stare at the wound on the deer's leg. It has to be the prey of the lion, and now I don't know what to do. It's probably tracking its blood scent, and there was a steady trail all the way through the woods to here. A low growl works its way through the still air, and I grit my teeth. I need the meat too desperately to abandon it here. Making a split decision, I jerk back around and slice across the deer's throat with my knife. It bleeds out quickly, as it has already lost a lot of blood, and soon it falls limp in its hole. Sheathing the knife at my side, I drag the deer up onto the ground beside me. It is a fairly small deer, weighing only around 12 kilos or so. I've moved sacks of grain that were heavier, so slinging it across my shoulders is no challenge. Though I have a thin frame, I have learned to survive in many ways, and carrying heavy items is one of them. I take off through the woods, moving as fast as I can away from the puddle of blood that I'm sure the lion can smell. Thankfully, the deer is no longer dripping out, so I should be in the clear as long as I can put enough distance between the predator and me. As a precaution, I avoid leading it towards the shack. Instead, I run in the opposite direction, where I hear the gurgling of water. I am crusted in sweat, dirt, and blood, so dipping through the water will allow me to wash away our scents, as well as scrub myself clean. I know that there is a massive waterfall at the head of the river that supplies our settlement with water and a place to wash our worn fabrics, but I have never seen it. As I tear through the overgrown path, I expect to come up on the wide mouth of the river, but suddenly I burst out of the trees and am standing on the edge of the waterfall. I skid to a stop, the rocks that jut out to form a steep cliff, slick from the water spilling over. I barely catch myself when I hear a sharp snarl, and this time I know that I have made no mistake. It is right behind me, that I am sure of. I should have known that I could never outrun a lion. I am fast due to my size and familiarity with the woods, but I am no beast. As I turn my head slowly, my eyes land on his massive paws and long body that easily pushed him through the paths much faster than I could have ever hoped to go. My feet slip back as I try to edge away from the lion, and I feel the ground give way under my heels. I am at the edge with nowhere to go as I stare into the dark eyes of the beast in front of me. It snarls, prowling forward, and although my heart is pounding and every alarm in my head is screaming at me to give up its dinner, I hug the deer's legs closer to my chest. I can't give up my only hope to save Harok so easily. If I'm killed out here, though, he will die either way. I argue with myself. I silence the fearful voice, knowing that I have already made it this far. The lion sinks back on its haunches, and I know it's about to pounce. I'm out of time to decide, and without thinking, I turn and jump. I freefall through the air, its angry roar and the sound of the lion's nails scraping against the rock as it steadies itself on the edge of the cliff fills my ears. I twist up to see its angry face as it swats at the air, but I am out of reach. Clinging onto the carcass draped around my neck, I brace myself for the painful impact of the water. I slam into the surface sharply, and as I try to kick my legs, I realise that I am not a strong enough swimmer to account for the extra weight. The deer is slowly dragging me down. My lungs burn as I fight to pull myself up to the surface. But even as black edges appear around my vision, I hold on to the deer. My foot strikes a rock, and I use the extra support to kick up so that my head pops up long enough for me to suck in a deep breath. I bob up and down as the current washes me away from the waterfall, and I am able to pull in breaths frequently enough to hold on to my consciousness. I fight as I move through the water for air and purchase, my resolve strong enough to keep me going. I can't unlatch my hands from the deer because it is for Harok. I have to make sure he survives, and that is enough to encourage me until the river grows shallow enough for me to stand. My body is trembling with exhaustion as I push up out of the water. I trudge up the sloping bank, the water and even heavier weight of a waterlogged deer threatening to drag me below the surface. I sink to my knees in the mud, finally letting the animal drop from my shoulders and onto the ground beside me. Rolling onto my back, I stare up at the sky, panting as I let my body take a short break. A wide smile breaks across my face, and I relish in the adrenaline still coursing through my veins. As terrifying as the whole experience was, I feel exhilarated. Maybe I've lost my mind a little to find nearly dying thrilling, but it feels wonderful to have broken out my monotonous, boring shell of life. I giggle as I sink into the grassy mud, and against my better instincts, I throw my hands out and announce to the sky, I survived!
Chapter 13. Harok. The forest has come alive with the sounds of the animals that live here, and blackness surrounds me. Still, she is not back, and a deep fear now wells up inside me. It is a strange feeling, to care so much for the safety of a human woman in this way, but it is undeniable. I have hardly moved since being here, my body still weak and exhaustion crippling me. Yet now I have all the motivation that I need. I can no longer just lie here, wondering where she is. It is becoming like some kind of torture. So many things have raced through my mind, from the animals that are out there hunting at night to those that would do her harm for other reasons. The men, either orc or human, that would take pleasure in stumbling across her out there in the wilderness alone. The thoughts are jabbing at me like hot pokers, making my guts churn. She should be here by now. It is not safe for her to be out there. There is little chance I can do anything other than take myself outside, let alone go looking for her. But if I can just move from this position where I feel so redundant, then at least I will have done something. I am unused to be so inert and ineffective and do not like it. With sheer willpower alone, I managed to drag myself to the entrance of the shack, not quite a walk or a crawl, but something in between. It is the most I've done in days, and my limbs feel weak and heavy, threatening to betray me with every inch that I move. As I do, I can feel my wounds reopening, the blood that I desperately need to cling on to seeping from them. But I do not care. This woman has become more important to me than my own recovery, and not just because she holds that in her hands. In the blackness, I hear something moving, hear the sounds of gentle footfall. As they get closer, relief floods me. It is her. Within a moment of seeing me, she rushes over, her face stricken. Harok, what on earth are you doing out here? You should be inside resting. She is all concern, and I wonder what I have done to deserve such regard. I try to speak, my voice just a rasp, but the words do come out. Where were you? It is dark, and you are so late. Her beautiful brown eyes search mine, and behind them I see warmth and compassion. It is only now that I realize she is soaked through, her clothes and hair drenched. Why are you wet? My throat is dry and sore, but I am relieved to finally have my voice back, even if it is far from what I am used to. Perhaps the fall has damaged my throat. Whatever the reason, I will recover. Nothing to worry about, she says. I've just been out hunting and got a little sidetracked. She looks pleased with herself, and also with me now that I am able to talk again. She throws the carcass of a deer on the ground. Now you can finally have meat to bring back some of that strength. You're obviously improving, but shouldn't be out here wasting your energies. I was worried, I manage. Thank you. I appreciate your concern. But I'm back now, and I'm okay and desperate to get this meat cooking. There are too many thoughts and feelings running through me to fully understand what is going on. All I know is that she has put herself in danger to provide this meat for me. Not many people in my own clan would do this. A deep wave of warmth pervades my chest. I have not known love before. Plenty of other things, but not love. Is this what this is? I have no idea except that it feels good. In fact, it feels more than good. It is intoxicating. I will recover in no time. It is the way of orcs, I reassure her. There is no need to worry for me, and under your care I am getting better with each rise and fall of the sun. I'm very happy to hear that, she says. Now let's get you back inside so that you can resume that recovery. I will prepare the deer and cook it, and you should rest some more. Are you quite sure I cannot help? I ask, desperate to be of some use. I'm not comfortable being so reliant on someone else, especially a human woman that is meeting my every need, even hunting for me. It is unfathomable, even though I am in awe of her and more than grateful for everything she is doing to help me. I am quite sure. Now come. She helps me back into the shack, and though I have offered my assistance, I realize I do not have any choice but to succumb to the need to rest if I am to heal quickly. I lay here, hearing her work quickly outside. A fire crackles and the smell of cooking meat makes my stomach growl. She is right that I am in need of such sustenance and can hardly wait to devour it. Every now and again she calls out to me, telling me what stage she is at with the preparations and how long the meal is likely to be. Her voice is a tonic, a salve that works on this broken body and weary mind. When she returns to me with the meat, I feel my body clamor in response. She hands me a portion and sits opposite me. The smell hits me and my mouth waters. Do you need help? She asks. Thank you, but I am okay. And besides, this smells so good I am already feeling stronger. Looking down at the food and smelling its glorious scent, I'm overcome with gratitude as well as hunger. I tear into it, the juices running down my fingers. It is like I have not eaten in weeks, the sensation so strong as the fats and the flavors soak into me. She watches me, her face soft and a hint of a smile on her pretty lips. Is that all you are eating? I ask, shocked by the tiny amount that she picks at. The deer was not a big one, and yet most of it has ended up with me. This will more than do me, she replies. You are the one who is in the greatest need. This should give you some much-needed energy. Thank you for doing this for me, Geneva. You're welcome, she says, picking at her meal. We both sit and eat in relative silence, the fire crackling outside and the forest having woken up for the night. I'm already feeling stronger, my stomach glad to have something substantial to work on. It makes me uncomfortable to see how little she eats, though I know she will have nothing like the appetite that I do. Still, my heart joins my stomach, becoming full and warm. She has done so much for me, taken care of my wounds, warmed me with her own body and fed me. In all of my days I have never known such generosity and compassion. And yet there are those in my clan that will declare humans to be untrustworthy and vicious, even though we are the ones to have invaded their planet, rampaged across it, killing them, driving them underground and destroying the world as they knew it. If only they could look outside of their fear and see someone like Geneva, caring, warm, and compassionate. This woman is truly special. Chapter 14. Harok. Are all human women like this? I watch her as she finishes her meager meal, unable to contain the feelings that grow in me. My heart swells with the kindness I see in her. She is doing all of this for me, and I'm struggling to believe it. Surely they cannot all be like this. Geneva must be different, special. If all humans were this way, then I would not be raiding their settlements. Yet she is here treating an orc with such care. An orc! It's good to see you eating and enjoying your food, she says to me, a smile on her face. It is the best thing I have ever tasted. She lets out a small laugh. I'm sure that can't be true. You're just famished and needed this. Maybe so, but I have never felt more satisfied by the mere act of eating. Her smile drops, and I know that my words have pressed at something dark inside her. "What is it?" I ask, suddenly regretful of what I have said. "I'm just reminded of my family sometimes, especially my young sister. Our bunker isn't rich with resources, except women. Food is not plentiful." Her admission hits me like a kick to the guts. The thought of her, and those like her, suffering in one of those settlements is heartbreaking. That she would be without food, comfort, or safety. "I'm very sorry to hear this. You should eat some more," I say to her. "You're small, but your appetite is smaller." "I'm more than satisfied," she says. "It is paid to have a small appetite where I come from." Once again, I am reminded of the hardship she has been dealt. There is no way I can make her eat, but I will do what I can. I will eat and become strong, regain my strength so that I can protect and provide for her. This woman will be my mate. I've never been so sure of a thing. The need to protect her has been planted deep inside me and grows with each passing moment. A seed of protection and love. I have rested enough, and now that my stomach is stuffed full of food, have no intention of sleeping yet. I should very much like to get to know her, even though I already feel as if I know her heart. She goes out to kill the fire before the night gets any older. Even though the heat would be welcome, we cannot risk being seen up here, and that smell must have already traveled for miles. When she comes back in, I think she is expecting me to have already settled for the night. Instead, I am still sitting up, though relaxed and comfortable. "You should be turning in for the night, Harok." "Shortly, but I am not tired yet and need to digest this meal. Come sit with me a while." Geneva does as I ask, and it thrills and comforts me to have her close again. The memory of her body pressed against mine as I rested will never leave me, and I am desperate for more. But it is not time for that yet. "I know very little about you. Tell me how you came to be here." "You don't remember. You brought me here. You saved me." My heart thumps in my chest. Of course I remember. I would never forget her. I know that. A silence grows between us. So many things unsaid, and neither of us knowing where to start. I want to know about her, but not to poke at open wounds. "The settlement that you saved me from, I was sold to them as a slave." "Please, you do not need to tell me if it will hurt you." I could not bear to see her suffer just for the sake of indulging my curiosity. "It's okay. You're the one that saved me after all. You are owed an explanation." I do not feel as though I am owed anything. I am merely glad that I removed her from that vile place and that she is with me now. But she continues, and so I listen to her, hoping that I can provide as much comfort to her as she has to me. As I said, our bunker has never been a prosperous one. The only thing that can be traded are people. When I people, I mean women. The settlement that I was traded with is a dangerous one, and the leader is filth. He prefers girls to women, if you know what I mean. A deep growl builds in my aching throat, but I am here to listen, not get angry, even though it is hard not to. The clan is right about some of these humans, but not all. I nod and signal for her to continue. It was supposed to be my sister that was taken as a slave, but I would rather die than see that happen. So, I swapped places with her. There is always so much chaos when the women are taken that they didn't notice. And that's how I ended up there. I swallow hard and it pains my throat, but nothing like her words that rip through me. So you see, that is why I will always be indebted to you. And if I want to hunt a deer, cook it, and give you the bulk of it, then I will. She smiles, but it is not one that reaches her eyes. It is more of a flat purse of the lips that signals her resignation and determination. That this is the way of life for her, but that she still has some agency. Then I gratefully accept, I say, even if you do return after dark. The smile changes to a warmer one now, and I smile back at her. To have gone through such darkness and still be a shining light in this world is not something I understand. You must miss your family. She nods in agreement, then looks down as she plays with her hands. I do. My sister, particularly. But my main concern is for their safety and well-being. Now that Bunker #3 has been decimated thanks to you and your men, I can rest a little easier knowing any immediate threat has been dealt with. This is true. So, just another thing I owe you for, she says. At this rate, there will not be a deer left in this wilderness. She laughs at her joke, but as much I would like to join her, I do not. I am glad it was that godforsaken settlement that we raided. The disgusting pigs. I would do it 100 times over to any other that I knew of who behaved in this way. You have done enough, Geneva, and you do not owe me a thing. I could never rest in good conscience knowing that anybody was being treated in that way. Not when I had the means to do something about it. She looks at me, her eyes inquiring. You are a good man, Harok. I never... She trails off. Expected that from an orc, I finish for her. I'm sorry, the last thing that I would ever want is to insult you. You have not. There are many things that we both have to learn of each other's species, and someone wise told me that there are both good and bad in each. Whoever that was, I believe them, she says. The things I've seen. I can only imagine, and now she has told me of what goes on in some of these settlements. I'm more determined than ever to continue with my work and to protect this woman from future abuses. Anyway, that's enough of me. Tell me, Harok, what happened to you?
Chapter 15. Geneva. The question has been plaguing me since I first found him. This was the orc that stormed a human settlement, as if there were no man or beast he could not deal with, and yet he was so broken when I found him. This is my opportunity to find out what happened to him. You would not believe me if I told you, he says, his voice attempting to hide some form of pain. But I can hear it in him and know the reason he ended up the way he did is something that troubles him just as much as the injuries he sustained. I don't want to cause him further distress, but I think it is time that we are honest with each other. Try me. He shifts, wincing as he does. Very well. He takes in a deep breath and then starts. I have been forging an allegiance with another chieftain, Akida, the wise of the Golden Arrow clan. He is, as they say, intelligent and forward-thinking. In fact, his clan have introduced humans and are coexisting. He looks at me and waits for my reaction. You mean as slaves? No, not at all. As friends, neighbours, and mates. I can hardly believe what I'm hearing. Can this be true? It is my biggest desire, to build a clan as Akida has done. One where orcs and humans coexist, learning from each other and growing together. Tears spring to my eyes hearing him talk in this way. Could something like this even be possible? 1,000 questions and fears run through my mind. That these are just pipe dreams. The wishful thinking of an orc that has ideas far beyond what is possible. Harok becomes animated as he speaks to me of the wonderful and unbelievable things Akida's clan has achieved. Building relations between the species, sharing knowledge and information, and even falling in love. But not everyone in my clan is convinced about humans as I am. There is a large part of the council, the elders especially, who have no time for them and believe they can never be trusted. My newfound excitement is momentarily dulled. And so, Akida and I have been working together secretly, raiding the human settlements that are rumoured to treat their own badly. This is why I came upon you. I am at a loss for words. It was no chance encounter, it was a purposeful act, designed to save me and the others who would come after me in the weeks, months, and years to come. But apart from a few trusted individuals, including Zora, my second in command, we kept our mission a secret, returning with supplies as a cover for the real reason we were at the settlements. And for a while this has worked, but something went wrong. Someone has betrayed me, attacking me as I returned to the clan one day. This is how and why you found me. set upon by my own, those who will never agree to integrating with humans. It's all too much to take in. Your own clan did that to you. I'm so sorry, Harok. As am I. I had known there were some deep feelings about what I was hoping to achieve, and yet hoped it would never get this far. I was wrong, blinded by my own desires. Has Akida really managed this? I ask, as the tears run down my face. There is a look of panic that grows on his, but he has nothing to worry about. These are tears of hope and joy. He has, and his mate is even due to give birth to their child. They will be a family and will usher in a new era. Then if he can do it, I know you will be able to also. I truly believe what I say to him, my feelings for him having grown deep. What I thought was gratitude is far more than that. I know that now. I have fallen in love with this man and am willing to do anything to help him realize his dream. His face is ablaze, and he seems to have come more fully alive just by hearing the words I have just spoken to him. Thank you. It is heartening to hear you say this, but I am less hopeful when I think of the situation I now find myself in. There are many who hold the same opinions and wishes that I do, and also many who do not, which is why I find myself here after all, it would seem. Even though I have faith in him, I understand his concerns. Maybe I could help you. I could make some inquiries about what is happening within your clan. No one would suspect anything, and I would be discreet. I could even contact your second in command. How can I ever ask you to do such a thing? You have done enough, Geneva, and I would never want you to get dragged into this mess of mine. But I would not be dragged, Harok. I am willing, more than willing to help you in your endeavour. This is something that could benefit so many, and I want to be involved. It is just too dangerous. You have already suffered so much, and now have a chance at a life that is a little less fraught. Take the opportunity to live it, Geneva. He is kind and thoughtful, and I am grateful for his concern, as well as his desire to see me live a gentler life. Even though that is a comforting thought, an enticing one, how could I ever do that, knowing I could help make life better for so many more? What Harok is considering would be a huge step forward for humans and orcs. Not only that, but there are others like him who have already achieved so much. I could never live with myself knowing that I may be able to help and never taking action. If this world is to change, and it must, then we must all play our part. I am willing to do that. I must do that before I could even begin to sit back and live a more comfortable life. But I would make sure not to expose myself to any further harm. My mind is made up. Geneva and I will not change it. His face becomes serious, and I can tell there will be no shifting him on this. There is a strength, a stubbornness that will not be talked down, and so I don't broach the subject any further with him. Instead, I listen to some more of his tales of the Golden Arrow clan and how he has come to admire Akida, their leader. He talks to me of the medical program they are attempting with help from the humans and of farming techniques that are also proving helpful. Listening to him is almost like listening to a young child. So great is his enthusiasm, and it is like stepping out of the darkness. For so long it has kept me there, in its grasp, never even knowing that there was an opportunity to crawl out of it. Eventually his eyes become heavy, and the conversation dips. It's time to rest now, I say. But I'm glad to see you recovering, and I'm grateful for your company tonight, and for the opportunity to talk to you, and hear of everything you have told me. It's given me hope that somehow there may be opportunity to make this world a little better. He nods and smiles, and as he settles down, and his breathing becomes heavier, I know it will not be long until he is asleep. I wait for the deep, comforting breaths that I have come to know and love, all the while one thought in my head. I'm going to help him with his plans, no matter what he says. So what can I do?
Chapter 16. Harok. I place my hand against a tree trunk and lean against it, sighing as I stare out across the view. Geneva finally told me the full story of how she acquired that deer, and it had sparked curiosity in me. When I woke this morning, I had resolved to come find the waterfall myself. The morning after she had stuffed me full of deer meat, I woke up feeling much more energized. I was able to get up and move around, and while I had taken it easy the first day, yesterday I had decided to go hunting. My recovery is spiking, and while I may not be in top shape, I feel well enough walking around. It's nice to be out of the shack, and I know that the half a day's walk back to my clan's camp wouldn't be too difficult for me anymore. As I think it, my stomach twists. I am reluctant to leave. Although I normally put my people above everyone and anything else, including myself, I find my heart thudding painfully at the thought of leaving Geneva. I can't help but wonder what will happen when I can no longer stay. I worry that something will happen to her when I'm not around. I want to bring her with me, but I know that I can't trust my people right now. I can't put her in danger, so when I do leave, I know she will have to stay behind. The thought of it is antagonizing, and I shove down the feelings bubbling up. Instead, I let the happiness I've been feeling surge through me. My life has been incredibly simple for the past week, and while at first I wasn't sure what to do without all my meetings and constant work, I realized that it has been nice to slow down for a little while. The sun is just coming up over the lip of the horizon, and I grin, knowing that Geneva will be waking soon. As I woke before her, I decided to hunt our breakfast and surprise her. Turning away from the cliff, I dive back into the woods to wrangle a few animals up for our next meal. It is satisfying to approach the shack with wild game in hand, knowing that this time I am providing for her. A huge smile has taken over my face as I push open the door, and instantly, guilt sinks through me. Geneva looks up at me wild-eyed, her hair a tangled mess, and she rushes to me. She cups my face, her eyes searching me as she tries to calm her breath, which is on the edge of hyperventilating. I made her panic. "Hey," I whisper, dropping the game and knife in my hand so that I can hold her. Brushing my thumbs along her cheeks, I assure her, "I'm okay. I wanted to get us some extra food because I'm worried that you aren't eating enough. I can provide for you now." Her eyebrows scrunch together. "You need to rest," she murmurs. I smooth out her hair. "I am doing much better now, thanks to you. I might not be completely healed, but I am close to it." She bites her lip, and I am a little relieved I didn't tell her I left the shack yesterday. She may have really flipped out knowing that I had been out in the woods without her knowledge. Her brown eyes grow wider, and she looks up at me with an expression so sad, I feel my heart start to crack. "Does that mean you have to leave?" I open my mouth to answer, but looking at her makes my heart stop. The words die on my lips, and I gulp as I take her in. I run my hands down her arms until I can wrap her up in my embrace, pressing her against my chest. "I might leave in a few days," I murmur into her hair. Her thin arms wrap around me, and I know she can hear the real answer in my voice. It's time for me to go, but neither of us is ready for it. I worry for my clan and my people, not knowing what is happening to them there, but for the first I am prioritizing something else over my clan. I pull back, squatting down a little to look her in the eyes. I could drown myself in those brown eyes, get lost in them forever. I offer her a little smile, which she returns, and my heart flips in my chest. "Let's not worry about that yet," I tell her, but I'm really giving myself that luxury. Leaving Geneva is going to be like cutting off a limb, and I can't handle the way my chest caves in when I think about it. But I shake my head firmly. "I want to be with you today. We can go for a swim or a walk, but I want to hear all about you." Her face screws up. "All about me?" I nod, brushing back a stray strand of hair. "I want to get to know you." She grins. "Okay." I clean the game and Geneva cooks it, chattering happily with me. It amazes me to see how bright the light in her still shines after all she's been through, and I can't help but smile as she tells me about her life in her old bunker. When we finish breakfast, I take her hand in mine, and together, we pick a pathway through the forest. I lead, and she doesn't seem to notice at first, until we start to encounter the small traps that she had set 3 days ago. Geneva stiffens and I turn to her, fear etched into her face. "What are you doing?" "I would never bring you anywhere that you would be harmed," I assure her, taking both of her hands. "Do you trust me?" She chews on the question for a minute, and I understand. It seems that she's never had anyone to fully trust, but she nods her head sharply, starting up her pace again. It fills me with pride that she so blindly puts her faith in me, and it almost makes me feel a little guilty for what I'm about to do. When we get up to the cliff, she sighs, staring out across the view. It's gorgeous up here with the roaring waterfall that overlooks the whole area. It's a lot easier to appreciate the beauty of nature when you aren't about to die, she hums, letting go of my hand as she edges towards the waterfall. She throws a glance back at me, and I grin mischievously. Her eyes narrow as she stares at me, and as I start to run towards her, she squeals. "What are you doing?" "We're going swimming!" I yell as I snatch her around the waist and leap off the edge of the cliff. I curl my body around hers as we plunge into the water, and when we come back up, coughing and sputtering, she tries to smack me. The smile on her face is worth it to me, though. After a long day of swimming, sunbathing, and storytelling, we return to the shack just as the sun starts to set. It doesn't take us long to curl up together, exhaustion pouring through my body. I throw all caution to the wind and pull Geneva against me as we lie down. To my surprise, she doesn't protest, and instead pushes her body firmly against mine. I stroke her hair as I listen to her breaths deepen, and my eyelids start to grow heavy. Just as they start to fall closed, I hear her whisper in a sad and broken voice. "Are you ever coming back to see me after you leave?" Chapter 17. Harok. I'm not a liar, so I say nothing. Can I come back to her? I have seen warriors stronger than I cut in two by a chance blade more times than I wish to count. War is cruel and unpredictable. I know that I will pull myself across this continent to find Geneva again if I am left so much as an arm to use. But I cannot give her false hopes. I can't give her anything. "Harok!" I remain silent, staring at her. The slope of her cheek is a work of art, more precious to me than any of the framed works in the giant houses the humans liked to keep them in before we arrived. Her eyelashes, long and black, dip low over her brown eyes as she swallows. She is working up the courage for something, and my heartbeat kicks up in anticipation, as though this is another battlefield. The stakes are higher with her, at least, than any raid I've ever led. Never have I felt like this, as though my heart is full of razors. Many times I've been near death, but never have I been this afraid. Geneva stands, and for a dizzying moment I fear that she's decided that this strange thing developing between us is too fraught, but she doesn't leave. She slowly stretches to her full height, and I can't help but watch the agile grace of her nimble limbs as she walks toward me and stands less than a handspan away. "I know you must leave." "I'm not." She blinks, and something twists in my chest as I realize she's blinking away tears. "I'm not asking you to stay with me, just to come back." The palms of my hands itch to touch her. I could pull her down so easily and capture her lips with mine. It's almost as though it's harder not to touch her, as though there is a private gravity working between us. Does she feel it too? How can she not? Thin cotton bedding pools at my feet as I sit up. Such a simple comfort stolen from her own settlement in order to help someone like me. Someone she should, by all rights, despise. I'm all too aware of how undeserving I am to even look at her, but I can't look away. It's a strange thing, being eye level. I've become accustomed to her staring above me as she tends to my wounds, or looming above her as I heal. But this angle is new. I am fascinated by the manner in which her short black hair curls just above her elvish ear, and I restrain myself from brushing it aside and tracing the shell of her ear with my tongue. I can give her nothing. "Geneva!" I swallow hard in the darkness and the sound echoes in the room. "I can give you no promises." She looks away. Good. It's imperative that she knows the truth. I will not have her waiting for me, wasting away, suckling at the teat of false hope. I expect that this will be the end of whatever has been building between us, but she does not move away. She nods almost to herself and offers me a long, sad smile before her gaze wanders down my bare chest. Very well. Her white teeth tug at the generous swell of her bottom lip, pulling it inside her mouth. At least give me good memories. What? My words die on my lips, and I am badly distracted. Her fingers skip along the buttons of her blouse. Her breasts are small, but firm, and I can't help but stare at the valley of skin between them, exposed by her open shirt. My eyes are wide, but I can't stop myself from gawking. I can't help but wonder how it will taste. Aren't you scared of me? My voice is deep, even deeper than usual, practically a growl rumbling in my chest. An orc? I'm frightened. I'm suddenly all too aware of my hands, large and calloused, and the delicate paper of her skin. Her bones are like that of a bird, and I am not a gentleman. I've been raised to conquer and destroy, raised to respect brute strength above all else. God, she's trembling. Yes, she admits, I am very scared of orcs, of this, but I am willing to face it for you. I will not allow myself to destroy her. My hands fist at my sides as she slowly strips before me. First, her simple blouse flutters to the floor, and then she brings her shaking hands to her pants. She slides both her underwear and pants off in one move and brings her chin up, defiant. It's a short performance, mere seconds, and it strikes me like a blow from a warhammer. I have visited some of the finest pleasure houses on this continent, and none of the women, orc or human, have rendered me as senseless. Nothing remains but her bra, and this she works slowly, teasing. She brings her hands behind her back, and her small breasts stretch forward, nearly brushing my nose. Her chest falls rapidly, as does mine, and I must shift to relieve the overwhelming tightness in my trousers. The bra falls and her breasts are exposed, nipples brought to a fine brown point. I could move my cheek less than a centimeter forward, and they would rub against my rough skin, and I could finally taste her. My hands are fisted so tight they are nearly numb. Geneva stares down at the floor where her clothes have fallen, and then she looks at me. Her smile creases her entire face with joy. It is so bright I nearly have to look away from its glare. Are you so frightened? Her fingers whisper down my arms to tangle with my fists, which are shaking with restraint. Of me? Of myself. She laughs, so close I can almost taste it, and she strokes her hand across my cheek, fingers trailing across a scar so old I'd nearly forgotten it was there. You aren't as scary as you think, Harok. I break. I honestly don't know how I remained still for so long. I stand, and her hands slide up until they reach the bottom of my chest. Her eyes are wide, but not, I think, fully from fear. There's a hunger there, a curiosity so fierce it burns. I could destroy her, but she could destroy me. I feel it in the electricity between our skin, in the soft, warm glow of her sweet brown eyes. Slowly, softly, as if coaxing a Hokeen into a new harness, I curl my hands around Geneva's waist and pull her up until her mouth reaches mine. I hold her there, a breath apart, until her eyes drift shut and her mouth falls open. Her lips capture mine first, and I am nothing if not caught. Her arms are a trap, and I am willingly ensnared. Her body closes against mine until I know not where I end, and she begins. All I know is that she is wrapped entirely around me, and I am falling. If I had the brains for it, I would be embarrassed at a human female weakening my knees. But as it is, my blood flows in one direction, and it is delighted at the press of her naked skin against mine. A small sound escapes her, and I swallow it, thirsty for more. Her lips are frantic against mine, but I force her to slow down. I cannot lose control. I will not. I lick into her mouth, slow. I suckle against her lips, slow. The kiss changes, morphing into something syrupy and languid, and I pull back from her. My chest heaves, and I am gasping for breath. Kissing her is like diving beneath the water, and I long to drown.
Chapter 18. Geneva. It looks like this chapter is too passionate for YouTube to endure. It is an entire chapter of freaky fun, after all, and I know you don't want to miss out on a single sentence. So, to get access to the full Steamy scene, grab the unabridged audiobook from worldsofprathika.com. Better yet, use discount code YouTube30 to get 30% off of all digital products when you check out. And if that isn't good enough, rest assured that this discount code can be combined with any discount already offered on audiobook and ebook bundles. Thank you for listening to Orcs Queen by Celeste King.
In a world of elves, demons, and liches.
What would you choose?
Power?
Or passion?
Would you stab the monster in the back?
Or take him to bed?
The immersive fantasy audiobook bundle has it all.
Go to worldsofprathika.com to get access.
Use code YouTube30 to get an additional 30% off.
Prathika's magic is eternal. Audio bundles will make it immersive. Chapter 19. Geneva. I blink open my eyes, and through the slats above me, I can see that the sky is bright with the morning sunrise. I push up onto my hand, and though my heart sinks as I look around, I'm not surprised. I all but told Harok to leave last night, so waking up alone in the shack doesn't come as a shock to me. It hurts, and I have half a mind to curl up on myself and stay here. I don't want to force myself back into my regular life when I've known more. As I shift, soreness spikes up my centre, and I grin. Last night was the best of my entire life, and at least I have that to treasure forever. He did as I asked, and gave me more good memories than I have ever had. A part of my brain, a quiet, irrational part, is clinging to the fact that he might be out hunting. My heart does small flips at every sound outside the shack, as if he is just going to walk up and apologise for being gone. I know that that's not the case, though. He has left, and I don't know if he will ever come back. So I force myself to my feet. I have to resume my life, holding his memory close and treasuring it as he is still the best thing to ever happen to me. Dragging myself from the shack, I slip through the woods, and I creep up to the settlement just as sleeping figures begin to stir. My stomach twists, and I know that it's going to be hard for me to go back to the life I had before, but I will manage it. At least, that's what I keep telling myself. It's been a week since he left, and although I've thrown myself into the settlement, picking up extra chores and hunting more to distract my mind, I miss Harok terribly. I catch myself thinking of him often, of his sleeping figure, and the day we went swimming, and how gentle yet firm he was during sex. I loved all of it, and it pains me to be away from him, nearly as much as it's killing me to remember him. I've kept an ear out all week, even chatting with the men who patrol the area. I'm not the best at flirting, but they take anything they can get. No one is whispering about the orcs, even the guards, so I have to assume that Harok's clan is doing fine. I had been a little nervous about him returning after they had harmed him, but if a week has passed without the news of a nearby uproar, then maybe he is fine now. They must have accepted him back, and he would have handled the situation swiftly and firmly. Even though I've never really seen him as a leader, I can tell by his demeanour that he is a good one. He works well under pressure and is persistent and patient. He must care a lot about his people. He cared enough about a group of strangers to save us after all. With nothing else to do for the day, I slip off towards the stream. I need to cleanse myself, and the water is where I find myself most at peace with Harok's absence. I float around, and with my eyes closed, I can almost convince myself that he is still here with me, just over on the bank sunbathing. Of course, when I turn to look, he's not there, and I am all alone. Sometimes I think that I am just torturing myself when I could choose to let him go. The idea of pretending he's not out there, though, kills me, and I don't think I can do it. I can't just ignore all that we've been through together. even if it was only for a short amount of time. I pull myself from the water, needing to focus my mind elsewhere, and I spot a small track in the muddy area where the bank turns to forest. I squat down next to it, examining what is clearly a rabbit's footprint, and take off. Tracking after the animal takes all of my focus, and as the sun dips low in the sky and I return to the settlement with 2 dead rabbits in my hand, I recognize that while I may be struggling, I can still live without Harok. As soon as I emerge from the trees, a man rushes up to me, his eyes wide and his hair wild. He lunges for me, but something in him makes him second-guess that, maybe the knife and blood on my hands, and he misses my arm. "There are orcs outside the settlement," he hisses, throwing a glance behind him like he is afraid. I drop the rabbits in my hands, gripping his shoulders tightly. "What do they want? How did they find us?" My heart is hammering in my chest. Orcs have never bothered us here. Until I found Harok, I had believed that weren't even close. "They're asking for you." My jaw drops open. "Me?" I gasp. He nods. "You are Geneva, right?" I nod, knowing that we are very informal here. Few people know my name. "Come with me." He grabs my wrist, but he doesn't have to. I'm already rushing across the settlement, eager to get across to the other side. If someone is asking for me by name, it must be Harok. My heart slams in my chest as I wonder what has happened. The man is barely keeping up with me as we crash into the woods, and I skid to a stop as a large, green-skinned figure comes into view. My heart drops because I do not know this orc, and his eyes appraise me. "You are Geneva." His voice is strong, mighty. I blink up at him, nodding. My voice is lodged in my throat, and I can feel the tears burning at the back of my eyes. I want to see Harok so bad, and now that I know it's not him I was running to, my chest feels like it's caving in. I am Zora, Harok's most trust subordinate. My stomach twists, and my chest fills like it is being pumped full of air. Harok has sent me to come retrieve you. "Geneva!" The man behind me calls, and I turn to look at him, his face a ghastly white. "Do you know these orcs?" I look between the man and Zora. I do not know him, but I have heard Harok speak of him frequently. I know that Harok trusts him, and for that reason, so do I. I do not want people who have never cared about my well-being to come after us, especially if he is taking me to Harok. I focus on Zora once again. "He is ready for me to meet him?" Zora nods. "He wants you to leave this settlement and come live with him." Zora raises one eyebrow as his gaze lands on the man just past my shoulder. Is that a problem? I try to suppress the smile as it threatens to spread across my face, but I can't help it. I am ecstatic as I shake my head. Of course not. I look over my shoulder, uncertain of if I should say anything to the rest of the settlement. My eyes land on the trembling man. "Let everyone know that I am gone of my own choice, okay?" He nods, his eyes flicking to the orcs and back to me. He looks petrified, and it makes me want to laugh. I turn back to Zora, and a part of me is certain this must be a dream. Either way, I lift my chin, and with my head held high, I tell him, "Take me to Harok."
Chapter 20. Harok. Every morning for the past week I've jolted awake, always shocked by the fact that I'm alone. I'm lulled every night by sweet dreams of Geneva, and each time I wake without her by my side is crushing. I miss her. I miss her more than I thought was possible, and every second I'm filled with the need to make my home safe for her. Geneva's face flashes behind my eyes as if I need the reminder. My clan is full of enemies. The problem is I don't know who exactly I can trust. I've been eliminating those that I know were against me, and slowly, with Zora's help, I've been piecing together who is disloyal to me. Zora found evidence that the elders were trying to assassinate me. While I was gone, my loyal subordinate knew that I would come back, so he prepared the evidence for me, waiting for my return. It shocks me to my core that anyone would be against me like this, but Zora's evidence is very detailed. Although their betrayal would have been enough to eliminate the elders, more than half of the council is being charged with assassination as well. Some of them surrendered quietly, admitting that they were wrong. They knew they had chosen the wrong side, and they went down with their sinking ship. Others, though, like the one who is hiding inside the house I am now standing in front of, try to run. I've slowly been picking them off, reminding them that, as a leader, I am also a great warrior. It tears at me that I have to do this, but I cannot have enemies in my clan. It is my belief that anyone who assists those who outwardly stand against me also must be dispatched. In this case, that includes the elder's son who tried to hide his father. Unlucky for them, I have loyal men who informed me of the elder's whereabouts. "Uzul!" I call out, knowing that he can hear me as he cowers in the secret home that his son had built just outside of our lands. "It is time to stop being a coward. Come out and face your punishment as a traitor." The words land just as I hope they will. The upstairs window snaps open, and although Uzul does not step in front of the open frame, I can hear his voice clearly. I will never surrender to someone who is not meant to lead. I suck in a deep breath. It seems my people have forgotten who I am. I am a good ruler and a kind orc, but only to my people. To my enemies, I am ruthless and unforgiving, known across the lands for the fear I strike in others. Uzul seems to think that it doesn't apply to him. My voice deepens as my eyes sweep across the lawn, meeting the eyes of my men. Kill everyone that stands in your way. Their eyes widen, and they know that I mean everyone. My philosophy has always been to nip the problem in the bud. I don't need to convince someone to be loyal to me. If they aren't, then so be it. I follow my men into the house as they slam through the front door, and instantly Uzul's son, Ramul, leaps out. He's loyal to his father, and I can admire that about him. It's just a shame that his father led him down the wrong path. I sidestep Remul's body as he is cut down, his body tossed aside as he clutches at the deep wound in his chest that is pouring out all over the floor. I tisk as I pass. It's a shame considering how nice the flooring is in here. My men disperse throughout the house, searching for any other traitors. If I am not mistaken, which I never am, Ramul has a wife as well. Unfortunate for her that she had to be shackled to such a poor excuse for an orc. Her scream pierces the air as my feet hit the landing at the top of the stairs, and I kick open the first door I see. It's a bathroom, which is empty, and I move down the hall, flinging open the doors as I go. When I get to the last door in the hall, I chuckle. It's the same room with the open window. Anyone else would have tried to escape before I reached them, but not Uzul. He isn't wonderful under pressure and always denied that as a fault of his. I shake my head. "Oh, Uzul," I say, my heel slamming into the wood and allowing me access to the room. "You are too predictable." No one is in the room, but I know better. He thinks he is going to outsmart me, and I sip deeper in the room. His foot shifts, loud enough to alert me to where he is squatted behind the door, and I twist around as he lunges, catching his throat in my hand. I partly want to ask him what he was going to do. How was his frail body going to fight me when his size is no match for mine? I could break him with a glance and a swipe of my pinky. Why wouldn't he just surrender? "You should have known better than to stand against me, old man," I sneer in his face. "My tolerance for betrayers is low, and you should know that. How many people have you watched me tear apart over the years? Did you really think I wouldn't do the same to you?" Uzul coughs as I slowly crush his windpipe, but that annoying smirk is still spread across his face. Amusement dances in his eyes, and he is giving me the look of someone who knows something I don't. Something that somehow makes his death funny. "I did," he wheezes, forcing the words out. "I just thought it was worth it." I drop him to the ground, trying to fight the rage roiling in me. I hate to act in a fit of anger because everything I do, I want it done with purpose. Uzul scrambles backward and I sigh as I stalk after him. I draw my knife, tired of playing these games with him. If he chooses to end his life early, then I'm glad to oblige. I catch the front of his shirt, pulling him up to me. I don't find satisfaction in it as I press my blade against his throat. Uzul, this all could have been avoided. I hope you see that as much as I hate people who turn on me, you've left me no choice. As expected, fear sparks in his eyes as the metal bites into his skin. I wait for him to say something, and his lips purse, trembling as he whispers, "Please, sir." I cluck my tongue. It's too late for that. I lift my hand, slicing through his neck easily, and I drop his body as his head hits the first step. I follow it as it rolls down the stairs, snagging it as it comes to a stop. The house is empty, and I know that my men are waiting for me outside. They would never intervene, as it is the right for anyone to challenge the chieftain. I push through the door, holding Uzul's head high above me, and my men burst out in an uproarious cheer. I spot an abandoned tribal flag lying on the ground, and setting the head aside, I pick it up, waving it in front of me. Spotting a flag holder on the front of the house, I jam the flag in there to announce my victory. I grin as I watch my men celebrate, and their happiness fills me with great joy. I understand their excitement as our quest is finally over. My clan is free of all my enemies and is finally safe again. Chapter 21. Harok. I trudge behind my men back to the base, trying to hide the emotions working their way onto my face. They are eager to have me back, and their loyalty is refreshing. They treat my victories as their own, and I love that, especially with my spirits not being as high as I had hoped they would be. It feels wonderful to have corrected the order on base, and I'm eager to dive into my chieftain duties again. I missed my role, my sense of purpose while I was gone, and I have a lot of work to do after what happened to me. There's still one thing that is missing, though, and no matter how hard I try to swallow the feeling, it won't go away. As everyone pours into the hall for drinks, games, and drunken stories, I find myself lingering in the doorway. A part of me wants to turn around and leave, go back to my home to settle in for the night. I don't want to celebrate the same way that they do. I want to hold Geneva, to rush to her and take her in my arms. I miss her so terribly that every beat of my heart has become a terrible throb, and she consumes my mind. If I could just see her, I'd feel complete again. Instead, it seems that there is a giant cavern in my chest, empty and deep without her. While there is a tiny voice in my head that tells me I should go inside to be with my men, to keep my bond with them strong and to keep all my pain at bay, I can't do it. I can't keep going on like there isn't a huge hole where my heart should be, like I'm not constantly distracted by the need for Geneva to be at my side. I return to my home after sending for Zora, expecting him to appear immediately. As the seconds tick by and my heart rate increases, I remember sadly that I sent him on an errand. He won't return for a few days, to my great disappointment. I don't feel comfortable calling on anyone else. I've learned my lesson in the concept of blind loyalty with my people, and although I believe I have eradicated all threats, I will not entrust Geneva with anyone else. Turning into bed, I feel restless. My body can't relax, and as a shiver racks me, I crave her thin arms around me. It is killing me to do anything without her, and as I toss and turn all night, I know that there's only one thing I can do. As soon as the first rays of the sun touch the sky, I'm out of the door. I spent the pre-dawn morning packing and readying myself for the trip. I shouldn't have to stay overnight as her settlement is only a few hours from my base. Going full speed, I should arrive by noon. I don't know if this will seem rash or if she even returns my feelings, but I can't stop myself anymore. I have no more enemies that could hurt her. I have no more reason to keep her away. I need to see her, and I won't let anything stand in my way any longer. The anticipation makes my journey feel short, and in no time, I arrive at her settlement. I slip along the edge, uncertain of what to do when Geneva always kept me hidden away. I hope that I will be able to spot her so I don't have to approach one of the humans, but I don't see her. I didn't find her in the shack or in the woods, though, so she has to be here. To my surprise, though, I realize that the settlers are packing their things. Everything is being loaded up to be moved, and taking my chances, I emerge from the tree line. The people closest to me gasp, rushing away in fear, and soon everyone is alerted to my presence. I just want to ask after Geneva, see if anyone knows where she is. Surely if she's heard the news of an orc being in the settlement, she would come to find me, right? I step into the path of a man rushing past me, and he jolts back from me, his eyes wide. For a second, I wonder how he didn't see me when he was about to pass right in front of me. "Excuse me." His mouth quivers as I take a half step forward. His knees give out as he hits the ground. "Don't hurt me," he whimpers. A part of me is partially insulted that this guy was responsible for protecting the settlement. I fight an eye roll. "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just looking for a woman who lives here. Her name is Geneva. Do you know where she is?" His eyebrows furrow as he stares up at me. "Geneva? Are you the chieftain that they were talking about?" He pushes up to his feet and cocks his head as I ask, "Who is they?" "The other orc that came here to get here. That's why we are leaving. If an orc knows where we are no longer safe." I shake my head, not caring about the settlement moving. "Who was this orc? Do you remember a name?" His voice wavers slightly as my tone comes out harsh. I don't know his name, but there were a few of them that came looking for Geneva. She left with them." Frustration bubbles up in me as I take another step forward, towering over the man. "I need the name," I growl. I must have missed someone. There must be another enemy that I didn't sniff out, and they have taken Geneva. I don't know how they found out about her, but once I figure out who has her, I'm going to track them down and remind them why no one should ever cross me. It was something weird." He stumbles backward, slamming into a tree. "I think it started with a Z." "Z?" I grind out. "Like Zane? Or Zora?" My heart stops. The second the word leaves his lips, I stumble back, blinking up at the sky like I've never seen it before. My brain isn't comprehending what he said as I lean back against a tree. "Zora? Are you sure?" I gasp. The man nods. "Yes, I'm sure. She seemed to trust him, though." It snaps the last thing in me. "She trusted him because I did!" I bellow, and it seems to shock the man out of his fear. He dashes away, but I don't say anything. I'm too busy reeling from the bomb he just unwittingly dropped on me. I'm stunned as I process it, still partially not believing that the orc even was Zora. Maybe someone used his name because they knew what I would do when I found out. The more I think about it, though, the more sense that it makes. I sent Zora away on an errand. He had the opportunity to get to her. He fed me all the details of the people to destroy and left the mess for my men to clean up. Did Zora take Geneva? Where would they have gone? I wondered if he was doing it to surprise me on his way back to base, but then another terrible realization hit me. What if Zora did not do this as a kindness for me? I shake my head and search for another explanation, but I don't have one. I can't blame it on anyone else because I think that Zora was the only one who knew about Geneva. I'd been quiet about where I had been to protect her, but my trust has always been in Zora. Was I wrong for that? Could it be possible that the only person that I placed all my faith in betrayed me? I have to find her.
Chapter 22. Geneva. The unfamiliar room spins, and I breathe slowly in order to steady myself. I have no idea where I am or how I arrived. One moment, Zora picked me up from the settlement with a few orcs. I remember that clearly, like it happened only moments ago. But the sour taste in my mouth suggests I've been asleep for hours, at the very least. My last memory is of approaching the base and sudden dizziness. The world slipped out of focus, and someone caught me before I hit the ground. I fainted. Panic surges through me. I do not just faint. I must have been poisoned, or sick, or kidnapped. In my desperation to run, I realize that my hands are bound to this strange bed, tied with the same rope used to harness Hawkins. It is soft, but deceptively so. I have seen 300-pound beasts brought to heel with this rope alone, a relic of the world the orcs came from before they invaded mine. I try to escape it anyway. My fingers tangle and tug and cajole. I make no progress. I knew I wouldn't, but adrenaline still tears through me. I am filled with energy, kinetic and frantic. Intellectually, I know this is a biological process, a fight or flight response. In practice, it feels like I am going to explode. My skin is tight against my body, and the drive to escape is so strong that all I see is the window in the centre of the room. All I need to do is leave the bed and open it, and I can't. It's an added cruelty, a taunting reminder that I have been captured, that I am a weak human existing at the mercy of strong orcs. My only hope is that someone hears me from outside and takes pity on me. I scream until my throat is sore, but it's useless. I know it's useless. I can't stop. I let all the frustration and fear out in a desperate cry, arching against my restraints as I yell. If there's even a chance someone passing might hear and decide to help, then I have to try. I have no other options left. I see you're awake. Zora. For a mortifying moment, I think he's there to help me. I even sag back down onto the bed in relief before I realise the truth. Zora makes no move to untie me. Zora was the one to collect me in the first place, and I walked right into his trap. What a fool I've been. What are you doing? His lips stretch wide, presenting his sharp teeth in a way that makes him look more feral than friendly. Do you have any idea how difficult it has been for me to find a weakness in Harok? I thought it would never come. I pushed battle after battle, left him without cover in the most deadly of circumstances, and he just kept walking away. It was as if the god of war protected him personally. My fingers are tingly from their position in the restraints, and I try to shake them awake. Perhaps if I keep Zora distracted, I can eventually work them loose. Until you came along, that is. Zora's nasty smile is deranged, sharp like knives. Can you imagine? An orc like him, practically a war god, falling for a fragile little meat sack like you. Finally, I have a hold over him. You'll be my pretty little hostage, and Harok will fall in line. That doesn't sound like Harok. Zora makes a face at me and steps closer. He's almost as tall as Harok, and his hulking form stands in front of the window, nearly blocking out all the light. I cannot wait until I become chieftain, he says. The day after the ceremony, I will take my people from settlement to settlement, and finally, erase the infestation of humans on this planet. I long for the day when my air is clean of your filth. You're crazy! The restraints bite against my skin as I struggle in vain. Harok won't give in to Zora without a fight. But if he loses, I have no doubt Zora will do exactly as he says. His eyes are cold and bleak, and they take pleasure in my suffering in a way that gives me chills. He watches me like a predator, like a snake, and advances slow and sure until the claw of his nail scrapes along my cheek in mockery of a caress. His hot breath tickles my face as he kneels down against the bed. Zora smells of hokin and earth, and my nose wrinkles involuntarily in disgust. I'm not against having fun with humans. He settles his weight on the bed, tipping me towards him. Are you a good lay? The skin of my wrists and ankles are raw from attempting to break the restraints, and I am still bound as tightly as I was when I awoke. I cannot escape. I can only move my head aside, and Zora holds it fast with his claw. Never have I felt more helpless. Zora will use me against Harok, and I can do nothing. He will use me against my own people, and I can do nothing. Whatever else he plans to do to my body should pale in comparison, but even that makes me tremble in fear. Zora collects a tear with his claw and brings it to his lips to taste. His green lips curl in delight, revealing his sharp incisors, and he leans closer, and closer still. I can count the coarse hairs in his nostrils. The scar that twines from his back to his cheek is deep and puckered, almost a crater in his skin, and it comes closer and closer until my eyelashes brush against it. Bile climbs up my throat. Zora's claw digs deeper into my cheek, so deep it must draw blood, but I still turn my head away and close my eyes. I can't bear to look at him any longer. His expression, cruel and wanting, is still burned into my brain, so clear that I can see it with my eyes shut. The door opens suddenly, slamming so hard against the wall that a candle holder crashes to the floor. An orc, one of Zora's men, stands in the doorway. His chin juts out, proud and defiant, but his hands twist against each other. He's nervous. He's not the only one. I can hear other orcs shouting and a parade of footsteps rushing past in the hall. Something has happened. For a moment I dare to hope that Harok has come for me. But isn't that what Zora wants? Harok is strong, but he is one orc. What chance does he stand against Zora and his men who have prepared for him? Zora is evil, but many orcs will follow him if he promises the death of humans. Harok's dream of equality between our people is more radical than those that call for genocide. It would be better if he were to leave me here and let Zora do as he will. I do not want to be the reason Harok loses his life, or humanity loses its existence. Well? Zora stands from the bed. What news do you bring? I suck in gulps of air. I'd been unable to breathe with Zora pressed so close. I don't know if I can bear him touching me again. I want to be rescued, and I want Harok to be safe, and I want so many contradictory things that I feel as though the want has torn through my heart, pulling it open with a cavern of futile hopes. Harok. The younger orc's voice cracks a bit on the name, and his hands tighten against each other until I hear his knuckles crack. Harok has arrived. Chapter 23. Geneva. I scream in frustration as the door closes, leaving me alone in the room. I jerk against the restraints, yelling as I do so. I know that everyone can hear me, but I doubt that anyone will be coming to my rescue. I twist my wrists, trying to find a loose knot or a weak spot. No matter how much I twist or pull, though, I can't get free. My mind is a whirlwind. I can't get past Harok being here, and based on the way that Zora has been acting, not to mention the way he wants to overthrow Harok as chieftain, he needs to focus on dealing with his disloyal subordinate. My stomach twists as I consider the way that Zora talked about Harok. He isn't the kind of orc that I had imagined when Harok talked about him, and I am beginning to wonder if there is more to Zora than Harok knows. It doesn't seem like this is going to be a friendly reunion. With renewed vigour, I tug at my restraints. I know a little about tying knots from making traps, and I try to twist to see how they've pinned me down. I have a hard time craning my neck far enough to glean any useful information, which rules out being able to pull at the rope with my teeth. I kick and rear back, over and over, in hopes that I will loosen the rope over time. The back and forth movements should wear down the strands, but all I feel is a rope burn forming. I cry out in frustration, gritting my teeth through the pain, as I nearly pop my shoulder out of the socket as I twist. But no matter what I do, nothing is helping. My energy is waning from the efforts, and hopelessness sets in with exhaustion. I try to push through it, but with one final tug, reality sets in. I sink into the mattress as pressure begins to build my chest, and before I realise it, tears are tracking down the sides of my face. My cheeks burn as I beg them to stop, but I can't help it. I have been played for a fool. I trusted someone that I didn't even know, and now, look where it got me. I am unable to defend myself, unable to run. I'm stuck here until Zora comes back, and although a tiny part of me wants to depend on Harok to come and find me, I know that I have to get out of this situation myself. There's no telling what he is facing down there on his own. I pull it together, forcing back the weak and hopeless feelings that are threatening to overwhelm me. I am stronger than this. better than this. I won't let a few ropes and knots overcome me. I can get out of this. Grinding my teeth with determination, I think. I know that I can't break these ropes or slip out of the restraints. I have to find another solution, one that may be a little unusual. It hits me then. If I could free one of my hands, I could free the other. With both hands free, I could untie my feet. All I have to do is get one hand out by any means necessary. Ruthlessness sparks within me as I crane my head back and see how close I am to the walls. There is only one way that I am going to be able to break free of this bed, and I steel myself, feeling as if I'm going to break my teeth at the efforts to hold back my scream. I ram my hand into the wall as I twist my wrist and curl my fingers. Exactly as I expect, the movement isn't enough to pull loose of the binds. I suck in a deep breath, now having verified what I need to do to pull loose. Much more violently this time, I slam my arm into the wall, and with a quick flick of my wrist, I hear the bone snap as the two motions collide. The cry catches in my throat as I force my fingers to twist, although it is excruciating to do so, and blood trickles down my arm as the rope pulls at the torn flesh, broken by the bones that are now pushing themselves out of place. The sight makes black throb at the edges of my vision as tears pour down my cheeks. I pant heavily through my teeth, forcing myself to keep working. I pull my hand gently through the restraint, and with the bones no longer in the way, the rope slips off my wrist with ease. I curl my injured hand against my chest, pain pulsing down my arm as the hand hangs limply at my wrist. Trying to ignore the excruciating feeling radiating through the right side of my body, I twist to the left towards my other hand. With the binds undone, I am able to reach the rope with my mouth. I hate the roughness against my teeth, but I ignore the way it makes shivers race down my spine as I pull at the knots. At first, the only thing I get is a mild ache in my jaw, and I start to think that I just broke my wrist for nothing. I eye the knot strategically, though, examining the way that it has been fashioned together, and I spot the weakness in it. I know how it will come apart. I rake my teeth across the rope until I hit the bundle of strands pressed against the outside of my wrist. My side is burning with the effort of the stretch, but I ignore it as I clamp down and pull. It starts to tighten around my wrist, but I know this knot well enough to keep pulling. Just when it's unbearably squeezing my skin, the knot falls apart in my mouth and I sputter, spitting out the loose strands stuck to my tongue. I yank my wrist free, sitting up excitedly to untie my feet. I'm able to do it quickly, even with one hand, and adrenaline pours through me as I jump down from the bed. I am almost willing to bet that Zora was too confident in himself and that there are no guards outside my door. I will never know if I would have won that bet, though, because when I reach for the doorknob, I find that it locks from the outside. I've been trapped in the room as well. Sighing, I turn back to look around the room and spot the window against the far wall. I should be able to jump out easily, I decide, and rush to it. I throw it open, relieved that it isn't locked as well, but as I lean forward, I see why. I'm on the second floor. I gasp and jump back from the open frame, my teeth sinking into my bottom lip. It seems to be my only exit, but with one hand and nowhere to easily shimmy down, I don't see it as a viable option. Growing exasperated, I tug at my hair and start to pace. I have to get out of here before they get back, or everything I did will be for nothing. I edge closer to the window, peering down at the 2-story drop as I debate the crazy idea forming in my head. Glancing back at the door, I consider trying to break it down, but it will make too much noise in the process and alert everyone to my presence. I need to sneak out of here quietly, which brings my gaze back to the window. With a racing heart and a head full of half-formed plans, I wonder what I am going to do.
Chapter 24. Harok. It didn't take long to confirm my conclusion about Zora. By the time I had made it back to the base to gather my men, ready to tear apart the entire forest until I found Geneva, Zora had already delivered a message. He wants me to meet him, and he provided the location of his safe house for me to easily find him. I lead my men into the forest immediately, and while some of them are as outraged and eager to get to Zora as I am, others are oddly quiet, making my muscles stiffen. When we arrive at the house, I leave my men outside and I go in alone. There are orcs guarding the doors, but they let me in without a word. I recognize my subordinates as Zora's new guards, and they sneer at me as one of them goes to collect Zora. My eyes glaze over them as I wait, not bothering to lecture them on their disloyalty. I briefly wonder how long Zora has been plotting this out when I hear a sharp noise from above me. It's so quick and quiet that I can't quite tell what it was, but a bad feeling stirs in my gut. I know that this meeting won't go well, but I will do anything to get Geneva back, even if it means I have to do the one thing I suspect he wants, and something I swore I would never do. Harok! My head snaps up to see Zora approach. The uneasiness in my body roils into rage as I stare up at his face, a smug grin plastered across the lower half. It's enough for me to see red, and I have to fight back an outraged growl as he descends the steps to where I am standing. Go collect the others, he says quietly to one of his men, my men, waiting at the bottom of the stairs. I take a step forward. What others? I know he can hear the threatening edge to my tone, but he only laughs. My men, of course. I shake my head. Those men out there are with me. They support me. As if to accentuate his point, 4 of my most trusted subordinates, men I fought alongside in battle, march in and stand behind Zora. I blanch as I stare at the group, the disloyalty making my blood burn and swirl. I'm fuming, and I can't hold it in any longer. You, I growl, you planted all the information you fed me for your own agenda. You betrayed me. He chuckles. It took you an awfully long time to figure that out, though. He's trying to get under my skin, but I can't let him. I have to stay focused on the reason that I am here. Ignoring his insult, I grind out, Where is Geneva? This time he leans forward, howling with laughter. It sparks fury in me, building my anger to an all-time high. I have to hold it together, though. I can't lose it until I know that Geneva is safe. For her, I can put up with all of this. Kneel. It's one word, but it shocks me to my core. It's something I rarely say, even as chieftain, because my people always bow out of respect. Now this traitor, this disloyal abandoner, is commanding his superior to do something that he doesn't deserve. I level my gaze at Zora, daring him to make me, but then he cocks his head to the side to look at one of the other deserters. Punish the girl? My breath catches in my throat as I gasp out, No. Zora looks back to me with a teasing smile, baiting me to have another outburst. The orc has one foot on the bottom of the stairs, waiting for his orders. I don't want to kneel. I don't want to give him any satisfaction when he doesn't deserve any of it. But the idea of Geneva being hurt over something that is my fault is unbearable. My knee slams into the ground with a sickening crack, but I do not bow my head. I keep my eyes on him, which I realize is a mistake as his fist lands solidly against my face. My head snaps back as his howls grate against my ears, and I can barely keep up as he circles my bent frame. I've been wanting to do this for so long, Zora hisses in my ear. I am sick of watching you pretend to be a great chieftain, acting like you are high and mighty. I know the truth about you. You are weak. I despise you and all that you've done to our clan, but no matter what I do, you just won't die. I snort, and he whips around, sneering in my face. I can tell that he's angry I'm not a whimpering mess at his feet, and I hold that close to my chest. I can't push him too far, but I don't want to roll over for him. I will never acknowledge you as chieftain. I never have. It's a low blow, and he must know it by his smug look. Rage roils in me again, and before I can stop the words, they come tumbling out. How can you say that when we grew up together? We've always been best friends. I'm grasping at straws, trying to understand what has happened between Zora and me, but I can't. It doesn't make any sense. Zora's eyes narrow as he stares down at me. We were friends as children, but as we aged, I learned that you were weak. You didn't have what it took to be chieftain, and you still don't. It should have been me. It hits me squarely in the chest now. There's only one way out of this, and as much as I'd hate to do it, I don't have any other options. I sigh, and my tone sounds defeated as I ask, "What do you want in exchange for Geneva?" She's the reason I am here, and the only thing that will make me leave. I want to protect her, save her, and then tear Zora limb from limb. It pains me to give him what he asks for. I know what it will be before the words ever leave his lips, but I'm willing to step aside to protect Geneva. I don't think that Zora will hurt our people, so as much as I hate it, I do not fear for them. He grins manically. Make me chieftain. It's time for you to resign. Even though I was expecting it, the demand hurts me as he says it. As chieftain, I should always put my people first, but I don't have a choice but to step aside and let Zora have what he wants. He is no danger, and although the thought does not appease the guilt I feel, I can't sacrifice Geneva for my title. I love her deeply, and it makes this decision so hard. I swallow against the lump in my throat, knowing there's only one way I'll say yes. If I give you the chieftain title, I suck in a deep breath, my chest constricting as I force out the words, will you let us leave? We want to be together in peace, and you can't pursue us if I willingly resign. Zora's grin is unbelievably wide. I will let you leave. I shake my head. You must take an oath to ensure our safety before the Sky God. Only then will I give you the chief's insignia totem in exchange for Geneva. He cocks his head, seemingly thinking it over. I accept. We will complete the exchange outside of the base. I do not want you to know where Geneva and I go from there. He looks mildly annoyed, but finally he barks. Fine, we will go now. Twisting around to look at the orc closest to the stairs, he commands, Retrieve the girl!
Chapter 25. Geneva. I know I only have one option, so before reason can catch up with my overly brave heart, I pull myself up on the window ledge. I squat beneath the frame, rising on the outside of the glass, and I suck in a deep breath as I stare down below me. I'm not delusional enough to think that I am going to land this well, but I hope that the adrenaline coursing through my body is enough to keep me from feeling the pain. I already think I'm growing numb to it as I can barely feel my hand anymore. My feet are slipping as there is no traction on the ledge, and as my heart starts to hammer in my chest, I take one step off the brick solidly beneath my feet. Falling through the air seems to take hours instead of mere seconds, which should have given me enough time to consider how to land. I don't take the opportunity, though, so when my feet hit the ground with knees locked instead of bent, the impact reverberates up both legs. The bushes help with some of the pressure, but they don't completely eliminate the intensity of which I slam into the ground. The branches groan and snap underneath my feet, and it takes me a second too long to realise that the shrubbery isn't the only thing breaking. My left leg takes the brunt of my fall, and I hear more than feel the snap of the bone as the impact of my landing shatters the joint. I thought I was nearly numb to the pain, but as I'm thrown forward, my body knocked off balance by the broken leg, and try to catch myself on my hands, agony sears through my body. I pushed my broken hand back by trying to keep from falling on my face, and now it's folded completely back, the knuckles brushing my forearm in a way that makes me feel sick. I try to ignore it as I push up onto my feet, forcing myself to limp away from the flattened bushes. I don't know where to go, but I do know that I have to get away from the house. The window I leaped out of is on the back side, so thankfully, no one seems to notice that I just landed on the ground. I keep low as I creep towards the edge of the house in case anyone is near the first floor windows, and I listen carefully to see if anyone is waiting around the other side. I decide it is safe, and I start to make a beeline, or as fast as I can go, towards the forest that surrounds the house. If I can disappear into the thick trees, they won't be able to see me anymore. As I cross the open space, an orc turns around the side of the house, and I fear that for a second he caught a glimpse of me. I duck behind a big tree, moving faster than is comfortable and stifling the groans of pain fighting to break free of my throat. The orc's footsteps creep closer, and I hold my breath, cursing myself for being spotted so easily. My heart is hammering as he inches closer, and when he is nearly on top of me, a second set of footsteps, much heavier than the first, comes flying up. "We have to get back to the house," one of the orcs says, his voice rushed and frantic. "Did something happen?" Their footsteps are already retreating, and I have to strain my ears to make out the next sentence. "We have to go back to base. They made a deal." Both relief and fear echoes through me as the words sink in. The orcs are moving away from me, and it doesn't sound like they will be returning. Unfortunately, I have a good idea of who "they" is, and I am afraid for whatever deal Harok made. I push away the words, limping into the forest as soon as the orcs are gone. Luckily, I don't see any others as I continue through the woods, trying to get as far away from the house as possible. Worry is overwhelming me as I think about Harok. I want to know if he's okay and what happened. As tempting as it is to turn back, though, I keep moving forward. I am his weakness, and if I am there, then I will only distract him. I won't be any help by staying near that house. Instead, I keep my eyes forward, forcing myself to keep going. I've managed to put a good amount of distance between the house and myself, although my broken leg is knocking me off balance, and I nearly fall every few feet. With the amount of ground I've covered, I'm shocked when I see orcs weaving through the tree lines to the left of me. I suppose they are moving much faster than I am, and as I try to dart away, that fact is only proven further. They spot me at the same time I see them, and they rush towards me. I try to run, but the pain shooting up my leg slows me down. Panic sets in and I start to cry, making my vision blur. I can hear how close they are getting to me, and no matter how many trees I propel myself off of to keep going, I can't keep ahead of them for much longer. My head is twisted to look behind me as I gauge how far away the orcs are. My hands are blindly pushing me between thick tree trunks so that I don't slam into one. My method fails me, though, as my body collides into something hard and warm. I turn my head slowly to see what I hit, and my body starts to tremble as I see that I have managed to rush straight into another orc's chest. Shaking and barely breathing, I lift my eyes slowly up to meet the orcs. I'm terrified, and I don't understand why he's just standing there, not grabbing me and pulling me back towards the safe house. I almost flinch when his face splits into a wide smile, and I'm shocked at how genuine it is. There's no malice or threat laced on his lips, and as uneasy as I feel, I'd much rather be next to him than the orcs that are almost caught up with me now. I don't know what to say when he cheerfully grips my shoulders and says, "I found you." I'm sputtering, about to ask what he means by that, when crashing and groaning sound from behind me. I whip around to see what happened, and the 3 orcs that had been following me are now on the ground. Standing over them are 2 orcs with different clan marks, who nod to me politely. At first, I'm not sure what any of it means, but then I remember that Harok told me that he had been meeting with allies the day he was attacked. He told me how he wanted to integrate humans into his clan, and that he had a friend that had been teaching him about medicine and farming. As I stare back up at the orc that found me, I know that this must be him. He doesn't seem to want to hurt me, and so I lean into him, my leg burning from how hard I just pushed myself. "Are you Harok's allies?" I gasp, my words coming out more frantic than I realised I felt. My heart is pounding with every second that I have wasted now, and I hope that I have not made a mistake. The orc nods at me, and before I let him say anything else, I pull on him, tugging him closer as my energy drains. Please save him.
Chapter 26. Harok. It is a wait that seems to go on forever. All I want is to see her, hear her, know that she is safe. I have never before put another before the clan, until I met Geneva. Now all I can think about is being with her and, most importantly, protecting her. Zora becomes more agitated by the second, his face twisting with the frustration. Or is it with the darkness inside him? I cannot be sure now. He had never shown me that darkness before, yet now that I have had a glimpse, it has become obvious. Something that I can never unsee. I watch as the anger and impatience eat at him, noticing every single clench of the fist or narrowing of the eyes. I am on full alert, aware that something is going on, but not sure what that is. Has Geneva escaped? Or maybe someone else has already freed her. The fear that snakes around my belly starts to abate. It could be Akita. There's no way he would stand aside if he knew of such a treachery. Maybe that messenger bird that I sent to him when I found out that Zora had taken her got to him after all. Never have I been so glad to have forged such an alliance with Akita the Wise. Though I feel it is not just an alliance, but a friendship. One I know I can rely on. He is wise and true. Nothing like Zora. What is wrong, Zora? Leadership too much for you already? I taunt. He turns to me with a hatred in his eyes that shocks even me. There is no way out of this for you, Harok. I thought we had an agreement. As if I ever expected him to stick to such a thing. I could no more trust him with his word than I could a hog with a tray of food. Things change. Quicker than you could even imagine, it seems. His head whips around and he marches towards me. What do you know of this? Of what? Do not play games with me, Harok. Where is she? You did not think I would let you get away with this, Zora. You are not the only one capable of putting discreet plans into action. Whatever plans you had are no more. As his fist hits my jaw, I am momentarily thrown. But I can take anything that he has to give, and more. Especially for her. You will never be chieftain, Zora. You are not worthy of it. Geneva is safe thanks to those that I am able to trust. Those like Akita the Wise, a strong and worthy chieftain. The kick to my stomach is so hard I struggle to breathe. But whatever and whoever takes my last breath from me, it will not be him. Not like this, and not before I see Geneva again. He thinks I am beaten, bound and stripped of my title. But he has no idea how strong I am, and how much I burn inside to be with her again. It is this fire that now starts to rage. I can taste the blood on my teeth, yet still I look up at him and smile. Where the strength comes from, I do not know, only that I find it easily as I fly at Zora, knocking him to the ground. In an instant, my chains are around his neck. I will kill this animal, and when I am done, he will be an example to anyone who ever thinks of usurping me again. Blood and spittle drips onto his face as I strain at the chains. His eyes are wide and focused fully on mine as he pushes at me. There is a part of me that would tear into him with my teeth if I could get closer to his face. Something cracks across my back, and I collapse in a heap on top of him before being dragged off. These men were once loyal to me, and now here they are kicking, dragging, and clawing at the orc they once called chief. In the scramble of bodies and limbs, I see an axe on the floor that one of them has dropped. It would be easier for them if they had just placed it in my back or my head. Perhaps there is a little respect left after all. I reach for it and have to think quickly. I swing wildly at one of the men, taking the hand that is raised before me defensively. The screams are almost deafening as the flesh drops to the floor, and the bloody stump pumps across us all. There are too many of them, and they would be on me within seconds. The chain is my next victim. I need to be free. I bring it down at the metal, and with one hard swing, free myself from the tether. Once again I am set upon, my head pulled backwards, dragging me into a painful arch, and I am at once fearful of a knife being drawn across my exposed throat. I swing wildly with the chain that I cling to, the axe having been wrestled from me. It is my only weapon now, and I will use it to full effect. They step back, circling me like a pack of wolves. Behind them I hear heavy footfall and am never more relieved to see my men. They charge at those that surround me, tearing into them with strength and brutality, everything I would expect from loyal members of the Thunderstrike clan. But I only have eyes for one orc. "Zora!" I roar. "You are mine!" Still not one to back down, he crashes into me, our bodies meeting in a thud that could cause a mountain to quake. I feel it in every bone and muscle in my body, and welcome it as a reminder of who and what I am. I am made for this, and I will be the victor. I slam my head against his, then bring my tusks sharply up into his neck. Instantly the blood spurts and he stumbles backwards. A kick to the stomach floors him, and I am on top of him again. But I will not use the chains this time. I pound at him with my fists, raining down blow after blow, my rage fueling my actions. He took my woman and he thought he could take my title. Now he will know how ferociously I wish to defend these things. The fight continues around me, the roars and grunts spilling over me as I send this creature back to his maker. There is nothing else, just this. The rage in my heart, the burning in my belly. Me and him, until the end. His head is drenched with blood, and my hands are so slick with it they slip and slide as I try to pick him up. He is done, I can tell, but I will make an example of him. But my attention is taken by the sight emerging in front of me. My eyes are blurry, my breathing heavy, but I am sure. Geneva? I drop the almost dead Zora and stumble forwards. Akita and Geneva run towards me. When she sees me, she picks up speed, and I rush to get to her, my arms open and waiting to receive her, despite the bloody mess they are in. She has no care for that. She jumps into them, and it is the most welcome feeling I have ever experienced. Wrapping her legs around me, her hands at my face, she smiles. And before I have a chance to even say her name, her mouth finds mine. That is all that needs to be said. She is back with me, and she is mine. Chapter 27. Harok. 2 months later, the sight of 1,000 blooming roses overwhelms my vision. Akita's tricks have managed to work, and now I have a small army of thorny growths cloned from a single branch. It is only a handful of flowers I seek today, like every day before. But I no longer have to forage in the wild for a bouquet for Geneva. I can grow them right here. Their barbs are nothing against my strong skin, but I worry for hers. So I wrap the stems in fine paper which our clan has imported from a human settlement. Many things, in fact, are different in my clan, now that Zora is gone. He had been poisoning my clan against me, holding us back from progress. 2 long months of war stifled us, but it is over now. Those that survive are my allies, tried and tested in battle. We can proceed forward together, without needing to fear what we do not know. Human ingenuity and a mutually beneficial alliance with Akida has brought us so much further than we could have come on our own, and I will not squander our good fortune. I readjust the bouquet until the flowers are perfect. She's just returned from another visit to her family, and I had hoped. I chew on my lip, reminding myself to be confident. I am confident, but when she's around, my heart stumbles in my chest, sweat beads on my forehead, and I forget what I mean to say. I usually just send her flowers through an intermediary, but today I have a question for her, one I wouldn't dare relay to a subordinate. I must ask her this myself. It is not in her residence that I find her, but in a circle of little orclings under a shady elm. She's telling them things that even I have not heard, stories from her people's history, filled with incredible tales of monstrous machinery and vast empires. I lean against the tree and listen as she concludes. She doesn't notice me yet, though some of the children's yellow eyes slide to me. I put a finger to my lips and silently tell them to hush, waiting ever patiently for her to conclude her lesson. But she soon notices that they're not paying attention any longer, and turns her head to see what has caused such distraction. Her beautiful brown eyes flare when she takes me in, her gaze lingering on the bouquet. "There you are," she says, moving to stand, a playful little smile spreading across her cheeks. "Are you joining the children for a lesson?" "Not today, unfortunately." I hold out the bouquet to her. "I wanted you to have these." She accepts them, smothering a real grin as she takes in the flowers. "They're stunning, Harok. The clones took to the soil, then?" "Much better than I anticipated. It bodes well for the food crops." I hesitate before speaking again. "I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was hoping you'd join me for dinner tonight." There is caution in her expression, like she knows what I mean, though I haven't said it yet. Of course. Is there any reason in particular? I very much enjoy your company, Geneva. I dip my head and kiss her warm cheek. She leans into me even as her dutiful students disperse, leaving us alone. Is that not enough? She adjusts a rose in the bouquet. It's a fine enough reason as any. I want to drag her against me and steal a real kiss, but I master myself. Good. There's still so much unspoken between us, and I want to lay it at her feet without delay. But I must wait. Humans do not profess these sorts of things without some form of reception, and I have something special planned. She looks a little disappointed, but conceals it well. I'll see you tonight, then. Asterisk. Geneva is stunning. I cannot imagine where she found the dress she wears tonight, that clings to her shoulders and dips low down her back. But it suits her shapely curves perfectly. The deep maroon is a rare color for fabric, even as our alliance has opened trade with Akita. My next breath misses me, but I do my best not to let it show, inviting her inside. Geneva, welcome. She notices my flushed expression and smothers a smile. Thank you. Even though she's maintaining a proud stance, I notice a blush creeping over her cheeks. She enters as if she's a stranger, and we haven't spoken many times here, late into the night. I follow her through to the dining room where I've prepared a small feast. Geneva falters briefly. Harok, this is too much. I beg to differ. I pull out a chair to seat her first. I've made sure to carefully adhere to the human traditions of courting. She deserves the world, but if I cannot give her that, I will become a man worthy of her. Please, have a seat. She allows me to seat her. Did you make all this? I did, I say, taking my own seat across from her, so her eyes are all I can see. It took me hours to prepare for this, but I don't care about the food. Only her. Still, I encourage us both to eat and serve our plates up. How are you liking it here? Have you settled in? Geneva nods, considering the mashed spuds. I can't thank you enough. Her eyes flicker up to meet mine. After everything that happened. She rubs her wrist, the one that had been broken in the chase. I couldn't have imagined a place like this existed, but here it is. My gaze flickers down and I reach for her. How are your injuries? Geneva issues a soft laugh and threads her fingers through mine. Fine. Really. I only feel them when it rains nowadays. My thumb traces over her delicate bones, which have only just healed. I wish I could take it all back. I'm so sorry. Don't be, she says with determination. It was Zora, not you. Everyone knows that. I tilt my head. After everything she'd been through, and still, her forgiveness has no limit. I decide to change the subject, trying to skirt around the real reason she's here tonight. And your family? She glances away, burning under my scrutiny. They are well, thank you. That's good to hear, I say. And though I am truly glad her family is safe and well, it is her I can't take my eyes off of. Finally, I give in to my impatience. I have to know her answer. I was going to wait until after dinner, but when I pull back, she dons a cautious look, watching my every move as I pull a little box from my breast pocket. I don't want to wait another second. Her full eyes scan me as I stand. Even as I kneel, our gazes are leveled. She clutches her knees, staring at me with breathless anticipation. Geneva, the longer I am with you, the less I want to ever be apart from you. I open the box, and a small gasp escapes her. I'm glad she likes it because it was not an easy thing to acquire. In fact, if it weren't for Akita's connections, such a rare artifact might have never found its way to me. It was quite a cost, but nothing I wasn't willing to surrender for her. Will you be my mate? For a brief moment, I don't think she's going to answer. Her delicate fingers slide around the box as she thumbs the sparkling stone at its center. Her lips part, and a warm breath escapes her before she looks up at me again, her expression full of hope. "Yes," she whispers, swallowing as she takes me in with new eyes. "Yes, Harok. I absolutely will."
Chapter 28. Geneva. "Where are we going?" I ask with a giggle, as Harok tugs me along after him. I thought we would be going home after his proposal, but he pulled me in the opposite direction from his modest dwelling. It's a surprise. The grin on his face is so wide, I know his cheeks must hurt. His eagerness makes my heart leap, and I push myself to move a little faster so I can see what it is he wants to show me. I'm shocked when he guides me through the trees that surround the edges of the base. I raise an eyebrow at him, but Harok lifts a finger to his lips. No questions. Almost immediately, we stumble upon a clearing just outside the base, and my jaw falls open as I take in the house before me. He stops, looking to me with his chest puffed out and proud. His eyes roam my face as I take it in, creeping closer to look, and Harok nods to encourage me. It's 2 stories with a wraparound porch, and I almost laugh when I see the ladder bolted into the side of the house, leading from the 2nd floor to the ground. "Just in case you get adventurous," he whispers in my ear, his gaze catching mine. I smack his chest playfully, and he chuckles, lifting me up into his arms. I squeal as he storms into the house, twirling me around in the massive foyer. To my surprise, the house has already been furnished, I realise as I spot the rugs and couches in the living room. "What is this?" I ask him as he sets me down on my feet. "I had it built for us, for our new family." I stare up at him, my heart pounding in my chest. His eyes are so sincere, and his words are so sweet, that I nearly melt into the floor right here. "You did this for us?" He nods, and I'm fighting back tears. Harok has always been too good to me, and his kindness hits me so solidly I feel the breath rush out of my chest. He takes a step closer, his finger tipping my chin up so that my gaze meets his, and his thumb strokes my jaw. "Geneva, I would do anything for you." I gasp, feeling so overwhelmed with emotion that I am trembling, and Harok gently takes my hand. He pulls me further into the house, and his lips quirk up into a soft smile. "Let me show you the tour." I'm astonished at the details in the house. It has plenty of space for entertaining, and to expand our family with gorgeous details and window seats, and adjustable counters for our different heights. It's so perfect that I am barely holding back tears when he takes me into our bedroom. He turns to me, wordlessly cupping my face and pressing a soft kiss to my lips. I sink into him, enjoying the way he feels against me. Harok breaks the kiss too quickly, pulling back a few inches so that his eyes search mine. "What do you think?" He's breathless, and I almost want to laugh at the question. His face is so open and sweet, though, that I take it in my hands, murmuring, "I love it. I can't believe you did all of this." His arms wrap around my waist, lifting me up so that our faces are level as I bite back a squeal. He brushes back a loose strand, and with a mischievous smile he tells me, "That's not the only thing I want to give you tonight." Heat shoots down my spine, spearing me right between the legs, which I've wrapped around Harok's middle. His hands cup the undersides of my thighs as he turns and marches towards the bed. As my back hits the mattress, I raise my eyebrows at him and run my hands down his chest. "What else did you have in mind?" He growls softly as he leans over me, his tusks brushing against the sensitive area at the base of my neck. I fight back a shiver as he grumbles, "You ask so many questions." I'm just about to protest when his teeth graze my skin and my breath catches in my throat. He chuckles, satisfied that I'm finally quiet, except for the soft moans he is pulling out of me. My heels are still pressing into his back, tugging him closer. I squirm my hips against him, begging silently for him as he groans. Impatient, he bites off as my arms slide down to tug at his waistband. I don't care, though. His hands are teasing at my sides, and his mouth is working my neck in a way that is making me delirious. If I don't remove the clothes between us, I might explode. I'm sorry to say that the rest of this steamy scene, as much as we're all wanting to hear the nitty-gritty details, is just too hot for YouTube. But head over to worldsofprotheka.com, armed with discount code YouTube30, and get 30% off of the unabridged version of this audiobook, and so many more. And don't worry, Harok is going to make it worth both our whiles.
Chapter 29. Harok. As a chieftain, I am never jittery. I'm always sure of myself and confident in my decisions. While I do not doubt or regret my proposal to Geneva, ever since I woke up, my heart has been pounding and my hands have been violently shaking. I struggle as I dress in my formal wear, having a hard time fastening my pants and latching the ornamental belt around my waist. As is tradition for men, I do not adorn a shirt to show my physical strength to both my bride and anyone who thinks I am not suited for her. Finally, I pull on my chieftain robes. They are a thick fabric woven with our tribe's insignia in columns. It sweeps to the floor but is open in the front to leave my chest exposed. I stare at myself in the mirror, and heat spreads through my body. Every chieftain is fitted for their mating ceremony when they ascend to the position, but I doubted I would ever need the ceremonial garb. Wearing it today fills me with such joy, and I find that my heart is beating faster as I grow eager to go find Geneva. Kara, my cousin and one of the few that stood up to Zora for me, is escorting Geneva to the off-site ritual building. The mating ceremony is meant to be private, especially for the chieftain, so we leave the base separately and return as a joined pair to celebrate with a feast and games. After building such a strong relationship with Akita, I asked him to conduct the ceremony for me. I trust him more than anyone else except Geneva, and I wouldn't want anyone else there to witness our union. I leave my small home for the last time, having spent the night here to give Geneva the new house for her to get ready. I make the trek across the base, down the path through the woods, and the small ritual house comes into sight. Through the window, I see a glimpse of a slim, tan girl with her brown hair pinned up in beautiful curls. Geneva's back is still towards me, and I soak in her figure, which is outlined beautifully by the tight dress I had to scour the area for. White flowers dot her hair, and her skin is glowing against the bright ivory of her dress. Harok. I turn at the familiar voice, my eyes meeting a kind set of dark gray ones. My face splits into a wide grin, and I hold my arms open as I walk forward to meet my friend. Akita. He claps me on the back, squeezing me tightly. His grin is almost as wide as mine as we turn towards the small house. How do you feel? Nervous, I answer honestly. He chuckles knowingly. I remember my mating ceremony. I still can't believe that Lisa said yes. I shake my head. That's how I feel about Geneva. We pause just outside the front door and he grips my shoulders. You two love each other so much. I see it in every glance and touch you exchange. I'm so honored to be here for this union. I squeeze his hand. I'm honored to have you here. He leads me inside and Geneva lights up when she sees me. She's even more stunning up close, and it takes everything in me to keep my hands at my sides as Akita places small totems in a circle around us. He takes the blanket that Kara brought, fashioned by the women of our clan, and wraps it around mine and Geneva's shoulders. The ceremony is quick. Akita quotes the ritual promises in our native tongue, while I translate them for Geneva, and we each drink the tonic that was prepared, one meant to bring fortune and love and prosperity. Afterward, I guide everyone back to the base center where a feast waits, prepared by Geneva's family. We take our seats at the head of the table, and after Akita announces our completed union, we dive into the food. Games are scattered across the open area, and I take the time to show Geneva some of my favorites. Although I'm not very skilled, I love archery, and we take turns missing the target before moving on to the axe throwing, There are also hokeens to ride and boxing matches to entertain the crowd. As the sun begins to set, Akita climbs up on the steps of the main hall. If everyone will join us, he calls over the loud conversations rippling among our guests. We will be moving this party off the base for a proper wedding. I grin widely, excited to see what awaits me. While I've tried to learn the human traditions, Geneva told me that she and her family would plan this ceremony. I don't know what to expect, but I know it will be beautiful. Akita and Kara flank us as we move back towards the ritual house. Some of my people will stay behind to turn this afternoon festival into a proper evening reception full of drinks and dancing. As we break through the trees, I spot a large altar decorated with white flowers and greenery. Chairs have been gathered and set up in rows on either side of an empty aisle, which is lined with candles. It's beautiful in its simplicity, and I squeeze Geneva's hand as she pulls me to a stop. Akita continues down the aisle, announcing for everyone to take a seat, but Geneva keeps me by her side. "You stand next to Akita," she whispers to me, her eyes sparkling, and I nod enthusiastically. I make my way down the aisle, and I find that having my people here to witness our decision fills me with excitement. Akita smiles at me as I take my place to the left of him as he indicates, and my eyes are back on Geneva, her arm hooked through her father's. "Humans," Akita whispers to me. "They're different, but I found that a lot of times that's a good thing." I nod, and music swells around us. It must be Geneva's cue because she and her father start a slow march to me. When they reach the altar, her father presses a kiss to her forehead and places her hands in mine. She's grinning as Akita thanks everyone for joining us. It seems to come naturally to him, and I wonder if he and Lisa decided to have a human wedding as well. Geneva squeezes my hands, and I look back at her, noticing the tears already shining in her eyes. Her emotions tend to overwhelm her, and I know that this is a sign that she is as happy as I am. Akita says my name, bringing my focus back to the ceremony itself, and I grin at him sheepishly. He shakes his head at me a little with a small smile and continues what he was saying. "As chieftain, you have been entrusted with the responsibility of upholding the traditions of your people. With Geneva in your life, her traditions are now yours, so we will be moving forward with the vows the humans exchange as the Great Thunderstrike clan's mating ceremony has been completed." I nod, squeezing Geneva's hands as her smile grows wider. "Harok, do you take Geneva to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish, till death do you part?" I stared at him, blinking. "How did you remember all of that?" A chuckle ripples through the crowd, and I duck my head knowing that that was not the correct answer. I clear my throat as everyone quietens and answer swiftly, "I do." He turns, asking Geneva the same thing, to which she replies, "I do." Akita smiles widely, spreading his arms as he announces, "People of the Great Thunderstrike clan, I would like to introduce to you for the first your chieftain and his mate. Harok, you may kiss your bride." I lean forward, my hands sliding down to Geneva's hips as a smattering of applause fills the silent air, and she throws her arms around my neck. I press my lips to hers, savoring their sweet taste, and I know in this moment that I will never get tired of kissing this woman.
Chapter 30. Geneva. My head lolls against Harok's chest. It's late. After hours of drinking and dancing, my feet hurt, and my body is too tired to support itself. Thankfully, my new husband doesn't seem to mind carrying me back to our new home. My shoes slip right through my fingers as he crosses into the house, and I curse softly. He chuckles as he kicks them out of the way, tightening his hold on me as I squirm. "I'll get them tomorrow," he murmurs to me. He takes me upstairs, lying me gently on the bed. I can feel the second he steps away, and my eyes pop open to watch him undress. He strips down to his underwear, hanging his formal wear back up before coming back to me. I bite my lip, but don't take my eyes off of him as he comes closer, and a smirk inches its way across his face. I thought you were sleeping. I shake my head. I told you I was sleepy, not that I was already asleep. You look like you'll be there any second, he tells me softly, pulling me up to a seated position. Let's get all these flowers out of your hair. I sigh happily as his hands work through my hair, and it falls down in waves as he pulls the pins out. Harok's hands slip down the back of my neck, finding the zipper of my dress and undoing that as well. Leaning against him, I let him work me out of the dress, and I can't keep the drunken smile off my face. I shouldn't be lying here like I'm useless when I could be undressing myself. What are you laughing about? He mutters, but I can hear that he's fighting back a smile as he says it. Nothing, I mumble, giggling softly. I just think it's cute how you take care of me. He slips the dress over my head, and the cold air bites at my skin as he leans me back on the bed. You once took care of me like this, and I'll forever want to return that favour. My face is hot as I blush, and I flip over to crawl under the blankets. When Harok turns back around, a crease forms between his eyes as he stares at me. You don't want to wear a nightgown to bed? I shake my head, throwing my arms out. Come get in bed. Harok chuckles softly, flipping out the lights and sliding into the bed next to me. I wrap around him, pressing my lips to his, and it seems to catch him by surprise. He pulls back a little, his eyes staring into mine, which are no longer insanely heavy with exhaustion. In fact, my skin feels like it is on fire wherever it is touching his, and I am aching to coat myself in that heat. I'm not sure what it is, but finally being alone with Harok is making heat flush between my legs, and as he works his fingers through my hair, I bring my mouth back to his. And if you're aching for what happens next as much as I am, you'll have to find the unabridged version of this audiobook, where every tantalizing detail is intact, on worldsofprotheka.com. I know you'd much rather listen to it right here and now, but YouTube simply can't handle the heat. I know you're disappointed, and I understand and am sorry. So go to worldsofprotheka.com and use code YouTube30 for a 30% discount on all digital products. Anyway, where were we? I'm married and mated now. My marriage has been consummated and my mate bond has been solidified. I can feel both of those things humming surely throughout my body, and when Harok pulls back to look at me, I smile up at him. My heart swells with love and affection, and I brush my fingers along his cheek, marvelling again at the orc that has turned my life around. He's my provider, my lover, my saviour, and my friend. He's my everything, and it seems almost unreal, but he nuzzles against my palm as if to remind me that he is very much real and here to stay. I'm so glad he is.
Orcs. Gargoyles. Vampires. Ice monsters. Demons of the dark. These beasts seek war, destruction, and power. And there's only one thing that can tame them.
Love.
This is your chance to get the uncut and unabridged audiobook bundle.
No detail is spared.
Use discount code YouTube30 for an additional 30% off of the already discounted price.
Go to worldsofprotheka.com.
Get access to countless audiobooks and discounted bundles where I talk you through every last scene.
Protheka's magic is eternal. Audio bundles will make it immersive.